Morning, good morning,
Morning,
everybody.
morning, morning.
Morning. Happy Sunday. This is feels a bit strange, back on a Sunday morning, but
Yeah,
now looking forward to it. Paul Jaffa, the gaffer at AAC, has tuned in with me to co-host this morning's show. Thanks ever so much, Paul, for joining. Hope you're good down there. Is it
thank you,
nice? Oh,
Tom, for having us
you got a
on.
t-shirt on, so you must be insulated at AAC today.
It's nice and warm in here. We're in the say where the seahorses are and what have you. So yeah, 24
Good.
degrees.
Nice. Oh, you're in the Seahorse room, right? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed an extra hour in bed this morning, and I'm sure there's a few people that are going to be messing around syncing electrical devices because they haven't sunk with the time difference. But good luck to you if you're having to do that. I've had to do that on one of mine already this morning. But Paul, thanks again for coming on. You're going to talk to us about your recent travels, journeys around the globe. And of
yeah.
course, the up and coming Coral Freaks, which is going to be happening this time, well, yesterday, this time next week, should I say, all over next weekend. Um, this time next week, there will be a few people, I'm sure, with a hangover or two. But
I would have
yes,
thought so.
I would have
Probably
thought so.
me. Yeah.
Right, as
I
we do,
tend to I tend to make up for all the stress on that Saturday night, as many people have witnessed.
have a little bit of a blowout. I'm sure there'll be a few
Yeah.
people doing that at the Green Man. Any special orders of sauerkraut and maple syrup for the Green Man breakfast menu yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, fair enough. Right, good morning to those of you that have jumped in to join us. We have obviously our resident John Wright is joining us. Thank you very much, John. Hope you're good. Good weekend, man. Whilst we've got in here, James is with us as well. Good morning.
Hi, James.
Mr. Fox has tuned in. Nice to see you, Steve. Anthony's with us as well. We've got Dan's Reef. Good morning. Matthew's with us. Good morning, Matt. Hope you're good.
I am Matt.
Hope to you in a while. Reefy Reese, hope you're well. Mr. West, good morning. Albert Ewan, it's a new one. Morning, Albert. Hope you're good. Harry West is with us in the chat. Nice to see you. Robert, hope you're good. Corey's tuned in. Morning, Corey. I haven't got the sound over that Ron's got, but good morning, baby Dave. Hope you're good. Looking forward to seeing you next Friday, mate. Dirty D's in the house. Lovely language on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much for that. Reef Rondo's with us as
Hi,
well.
Ron.
Morning, Ronald. Dave's Reef is in the house. We've got Jay. Good morning, Jay. Nice to see you in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Ben's with us as well. Again, looking forward to seeing you next Friday. Dipesh, good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in. Mickey Boy Mick, MBM Aquarium Design. Good morning to you. Let's have a look who else we've got in here. A few more popping through. I'll do my best to say good morning to you as you come through. But yeah. So, Paul, you've been busy, I hear.
Yeah. I've been extremely busy over the last couple of months. It's just ridiculous. I've been through more airports in the last couple of months than I've probably ever been. But yeah,
Okay. So we're gonna talk about quite a few things this morning. Where do you want to start? We're going to start with tidal gardens, are we? Start with
yeah,
visit to
yeah. I think
America.
so. Yeah. I think that was probably worthy a mention because that was actually more of a. I'm going to own up to that one being more of a company jolly than
Yeah,
perhaps a work trip. But at the same time, as we were just talking in the green room, these trips they bring so much inspiration. I learn you never know it all. That's what I've always said. And when you go and see something as absolutely jaw-dropping as tidal gardens, you can only try harder. I mean, I've been there twice or three times now, twice I think. And then, every time I come back, I think to myself, I must try harder. And that's in turn good for the hobbyists because, I go away, I see new things, how things are being done, or, it might just be I walk along and notice that they're got a coral species that I hadn't thought about farming before or something. It could be
yeah.
something quite simple, or whatever. But no, I think from tidal gardens is just one of those places. For me, I've been a lot of places. It don't get much better than tidal gardens in terms of
Who
like
joined you? Who joined
efficiency.
you? Sorry, on the trip.
I
Who
was
joined you?
I went with Steph because part of the plan for this trip was that we were going to be bumping in to some of those guests that are going to be appearing at Coral Freaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the plan. But because Than had left things right to the last minute, you know, in terms of invites and what have you, there was a few people that said that they were going to go that then ultimately didn't, like Salem and Julian were meant to be there. And the plan was to hopefully get Steph to spend some time with those guys just leading up to Coral Freaks. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Right.
There was some time spent with Corey. Corey was there with Christian from NIOS. So we managed to spend a little bit of time together, and we were there with Pat and Trina, who people may remember from last year's Coral Freaks. They were there too, and March had travelled down from Canada from Frag Box, and
Yeah.
you know it was so there was a lot of and there was people from all over. You know, there was, but as I said, mostly industry people, but there were hobbyists there as well. It was an open day really for hobbyists because Fan doesn't open generally to the public. He'll by appointment you can sort of turn up there as long as there's an appointment booked. But generally, he's 99% online. He doesn't really do, which begs the question as to why Tidal Gardens looks so immaculate. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, even a toilet at Tidal Gardens is an experience. He's got those thermal heat seated bum washing Japanese toilets. You know, it's
Nice.
everything about yeah. But honestly, even the toilets are amazing at Tidal Gardens. So it doesn't matter what you know. The coffee at Tidal Gardens is amazing. There's a proper full-on kitchen and showers for the staff that are. You know,
Wow.
everything is just like it's like a coral palace. It's I've never ever been somewhere so amazing. And of course, it's split over two parts. So there's what we call the new building and what Fan refers to as the greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Yeah.
And
Seen
but
that.
the greenhouse, so the greenhouse is really held on, I believe, as a bit of a sentimental thing. It's like Unit 4 for me, where I started. I've never got rid of it. It was the original tiny little shop.
Yeah.
But for Fan, everything that when he started out, it was just in the greenhouse. And over the years, the greenhouse has the greenhouse. Um, the greenhouse is really sort of a place where Fan learned his craft. So when it was originally running, it never had any roof coverings. Like it was glass straight to coral. So he was trying to use a bit of natural sunlight and supplement it. Hi, Rama. Just trying to supplement it. Yeah. With artificial light. But in the end, that became useless for him. It was so he ended up thermal insulating not only all the side walls of the greenhouse, then he put thermal insulation within the greenhouse. And you might as well not call it a greenhouse anymore because it doesn't look like one from the
Mm.
inside. But he'd redeveloped it all. He decided that it was time to redevelop it all. And in the most part out there, I believe it's sort of an area where a lot of experimentation takes place before it might make its way to the new building. Um, but yeah, it's just phenomenal. And he's every time I go, he's quite a shy guy, Fan, right? You know, I don't know if people got that impression from Freaks when he was with us last year,
Yeah.
but he can be quite shy. But when you really get to know him, he's just such a wonderful gentleman. He really is. And
I can
you
I can
know,
remember when Lee One Arm Reefer met him, and we were walking down the corridor in the hotel, and he went up to say hello to him. And I've never seen somebody try and get into their hotel room as quickly as possible as Stan did. He was putting the key card in as quick as he could to get out
yeah.
because I just don't think he wanted strange people, random people to approach him.
Yeah,
But
he's
anyway,
he's
like you
just
say,
shy, but actually, you sit down with him, and once he gets to know you, you know, he's not used to actually doing that many public engagements. He's used to do all the he used to turn up at a lot of the shows and hang around on the stalls, if you like Ecotex or someone like that. So he was always there at shows, but generally he doesn't do many public engagements. So he's
mm,
sort of pretty much on his own in the middle of nowhere, on what almost is a farm. It's surrounded by beautiful countryside and wildlife everywhere you look. You look to the sky, and the sky is full of turkey vultures, and you look across around the back of Tidal Gardens. There's I call them prairie dog. They're not. They're gophers or something they're called over there. But they're quite a size. They're as big as a cat, just running around digging holes underneath Tidal Gardens all day long. But yeah, it's an amazing place. Really, really lovely. You know.
Wow. Well, sorry, Dave. I actually had a new hang-on kit that Mr. Fox gave me the other day, and I was actually on the phone to him, FaceTiming him, changing it. So yeah, I've actually just noticed it myself. Well spotted. You get 2 points for you. Anyway, you were saying about tanks at Tidal Gardens. We've got a few pictures that you obviously, a few videos that you gave me. Not the best quality, guys, sorry, but we are going to show you something that Paul managed to record. I can remember from one of the videos, one of the many videos, as I'm sure people watching at home have seen on YouTube. I know Steph's covered him, and there's some amazing footage out there of Tidal Gardens. One of the things that always sort of sticks in my memory that Fan always goes on about is how he used to tier his tanks and have, I suppose, he tried with the plastic tanks as well, but he's a big advocate of having them just one tank on one level so you can see in it and view it. Because I think that was one of the things I remember him saying, that when he's tiered them before, it stopped him from being able to look down at corals. He was just looking side on. So, but yeah, very interesting. This tank then, talk to us about this one.
Oh, that's just one of his Colorado Sunsets tanks. So over in America, something I really learned: bubble tip anemones should never be mixed. It does,
Right.
or if you do, it's a potential risk. These are just one of his grow out systems there. In the most part, Fan just concentrates on species that are relatively easy to grow. He is 95 to 98% pure aquaculture. He doesn't bring in hardly any wild corals at all. Every single thing that you're looking at is pretty much an aquacultured specimen. You can see there a few of the hobbyists on the day that are walking around and a few industry people. But I think what's really important to talk about those systems we're looking at, every single system you're looking at can be moved. They're all on casters or wheels. It's deadly silent in that building, I might add as well. That's fans that you can literally hear a pin drop in there. Every system's been expertly designed so that no noise at all. And at first you think that's just fan being like very particular about noise, like a hobbyist would be in their front room, but it's not. He made it absolutely clear to me why he does this, and it makes a lot of sense. If your tank's so quiet that when you walk in, all of a sudden you can hear you straight away, you've got a problem somewhere. Whereas if it's full of noise, you would never know. In a coral farm of that size, you would never know what was failing at the point that it was failing at. Yeah, so it does make quite a lot of sense on there. So this is thinned out quite a lot since I last saw it, but this was his big Amazonius tank. What else have we got there? The big MRC skimmer. One
Yeah.
thing I learned over there, the commercial stuff that MRC does is absolutely top quality. It's really, really good. I did see actually quite a good lump of of American quality, right? Which is not those two words you don't often hear. If we're talking
Mm.
cars, without any disrespect to American car lovers, but in terms of quality over there, the glass manufacturing by MRC and a lot of the skimmer, it's very very top standard actually. I was incredibly blessed. That's done by Raj, the guy for reef builders. He's That's his company MRC. But yeah, I
Right.
saw a lot of the. So again, from learning at Tidal Gardens for me, it was again, it's like when I built this place I'm in now, there's a lot of background noise, for example, and I really wished when I had the opportunity, perhaps that I concentrated more on that. Yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of overflow noise and things, it does make quite a lot of sense.
So for you, seeing somewhere like Tidal Gardens, obviously the scale is, from what I've seen again on videos that people have done, is immense. Do you then come back as a fish store owner and think, ooh, like you're kind of saying now, wish I'd have done that.
Yeah,
Do we change this? Does it have an influence to you,
yeah.
just like a reefer seeing somebody else's tank maybe does?
Yeah, I mean, everything I've ever done, whether it's the shows or whether it's, I have took an awful, I always look at what the rest of the world is doing and then try and think like a hobbyist. That's how Coral Freaks originally, we'll talk about that later, but that's how that came around because
Yeah,
at the time, hobbyists were saying that they wanted a vendor show and they wanted this and they wanted that. And I always try and keep my ear to the ground. And I think it goes, it's a sensible business sort of thing, really, because my business mentor that I listen to, he always taught me, he said, you've always give a customer what they want. Yeah, if you give a customer what they want, you'll be successful, so you've got to listen to what they want. And I actually try and express the same thing often to manufacturers and distributors over here. You haven't, especially when there's been a bit of a cock up, they've not
yeah,
listened to what hobbyists want. What is it that they want? And if they did listen, to retailers and hobbyists, manufacturers and suppliers and distributors would probably, and there are companies that I work with that do listen, but sometimes in the past they don't, and then they end up disappearing, or something never gets developed well, or it's not well tested prior to release, or
So if
things
I
like
asked you, if I asked you for some corals from America,
yeah.
what would you say about that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I've been trying a lot, and I know Laura has as well over the years as well, is trying to find ways round this big problem that we've got. So, in America, some of the better stores, the aquaculture facilities like Top Shelf, for example, and ACI, and
Yeah,
they you can clearly see that they're in an aquaculture situation. It's not made up. So I like the phrase. There's a difference. There's what we call conditioned frags, which I do a lot of, which means that basically a wild colony was chopped up as they'll do, yeah. But then there's conditioning them, and conditioning them means that they're obviously letting them base out and at least showing growth. They've
yeah,
recovered from their terrible ordeal, if you like, being fragged. Yeah, and that they look like they're going to work. And then they've got their true aquaculture, many generations that follow one another. So some of these facilities do have what we call an aquaculture permit, which is issued by, I believe, their local fisheries and fauna, which in theory, coupled with a import CITES permit, you would think that that would be enough. But the
right,
authorities in the EU and Europe still want a CITES export. And of course, the problem is where America is still able to, and if you talk to Chris Meckley, rather the system was the same as ours, incidentally, the grass isn't always greener. But I've spoke to a few Americans now that actually wish they had our system, which is a lot tighter. But they have an aquaculture permit. We can get a CITES import permit, and but unfortunately, our authorities will not just take the aquaculture permit as a good enough reason to export those particular species
no,
of animals. So the problem with stony corals, particularly, is that the Americans need to find a way of being able to get export CITES permits for their aquaculture frags, and then you've got to ask yourself, why would you bother? Because if they can sell them into their domestic marketplace really relatively easy, yeah, then it's really a big ask for them to start trying it. So it's down to us to try and find a way, make it as easy for them. And obviously, after Tidal Gardens, this sort of links in with Tidal Gardens.
yeah,
We had a few trips out, and I went out with Steph and March from Fragbox to a couple of local LFSs in America. And again, this is where you learn. Again, you see things that they do, what products they're allowed to have that we're not allowed to have, what animals they can do, and how they do things. And then on the way back, we also popped into what I believe must be the world's largest coral farm, which is eye-catching corals. And it's not just, I mean, give you an idea, you could put 10 TMCs into this place. If you've ever been
yeah,
to TMC or you know what that looks like, you know, but in terms of AAC, you could have about 50 of them in this place. You know, each one of them systems that you'll, I've got the people in the photo there. Incidentally, you're not allowed to film at this place, but I begged Jim and Ben if it's all right just to show the magnitude of the place. You know, I said, come on, guys, you know, they're not very, you know, they're only recently been doing a bit of Instagram and things like that, you know, but they're wholesale, remember, they're not open to the public.
Wow.
So this is one of their new aircraft hangar sizes. We'll say one of them, yeah, just to give you an idea.
Wow.
And each row that you're looking at, I believe, is $250,000. Just to give you an idea of the amount of money and expense that goes into this. And these two young men that are only in early 40s, really, I'd say, have pulled this off in very few years. But this is the newer part. And you can't see a lot of corals on these end rows. But if you further down the road is where they're culturing a lot of soft corals. And while I was walking around there, I thought, well, legally, we should be allowed to have the soft corals. So I've started researching into whether we might be able to have our first ever US soft coral import. So
Ooh.
watch this space. I can't name
Wow.
any species as yet, and I'm only sort of just at the moment working with our UK freight forwarder and directly with eye catching. But I am hoping that we could eventually start to see some aquacultured corals from the US in the UK, but done in a legal manner. You know, and you know, one of the things that I will never ever get involved with is in the idea that you're just smuggling corals from, you know, even though
Yeah.
they're aquacultured, and in terms of an environmental cost, there is no issue with it. I still want to make sure that we game, because I'm very protective over the industry and being seen to be made sure that we do
Yeah.
it. So it's so tempting. Obviously, you can imagine these places I go and see something. Oh, you know, had a little flavour of that when you was in Orlando, and it's
Yeah.
terrible, Tom. You walk around, it's literally like waving a look at this, look, you
I
know,
know,
and
but the prices as well are just completely next.
yeah,
Like
I
some
mean,
of
yeah,
the
some are, but it depends where you go, Tom. I saw some
yeah.
very rare. I mean, for example, in one of the shops, one of the shops I went to, which was called Blue Sea in Ohio, they had like aquacultured red gonopora, fully encrusted, beautiful little frags of these red gonnies. I think they were $40, and
Yeah.
I thought that's a really good price. And I've
Yeah.
seen when you go out in Orlando, everything costs a lot of money. Rent and all of that is a lot more money. So what we see when we go to Orlando on the Reefer Palooza, they've got a lot of money to find. Like my rent, say, versus someone in the north is going to be completely different. So when you get out of town, yeah, you'll actually find that corals over there are fairly similar to us. Some of the more sort of specialist items are obviously high, but you know, a blue digi's a blue digi, you know,
Yeah.
a pavona's a pavona. So they're not unreasonable in terms of cost. Their fish, however, are ridiculous cost, as Steph will comment, I'm sure, on that. I mean, you're talking in, I won't name any stores, but I visited a store in Florida once, and they had tiny regal tangs that, you know, would retail in my store for something like £49, and over there were $95, free with white spot. I
Oh,
just
really?
thought,
Wow.
yeah, so you can pay twice as much and get some free diseases with it. You know, their standards on fish I found in the States are diabolical. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
We
we've got
we
that
we
young,
saw a few, and me and Jipper
yeah,
saw a few, and
yeah,
not going to mention names, but the coral was next level, but the fish was a
yeah.
different level as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Who's the young man over there at the moment that was on Than's show? Actually, he's got a fantastic. There is a young Elliot Lim.
Right? Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
now that guy has
Yeah.
got, so one thing in America is, in terms of business, for example, your audience is huge. You know, but of course you have to remember, for someone like Fan who's posting into Alaska, yeah, and then he might be posting into Texas. Every parcel has to be made according to
Yeah.
its destination. So some need heat packs in, some need ice packs in. You know, so it's a very, but your audience is huge. So Elliot Lim, for example, started doing what I call, and you know, despite what we hear over here and elsewhere, there is very few, if very few people doing what I call real um, quarantine. But
Yeah.
Elliot, you see, he charges on fish. He might pay like $300 or $400 for a copper band butterfly, but Elliot might have bought three to get you that one, and he might have spent 8 weeks to 12 weeks getting that copper band. So you pay for the labour, the way
Yeah.
that you said. But of course, in America, your audience is so huge that some hobbyists would be prepared to pay $400 for a copper band butterfly, whereas over here, hobbyists wouldn't. No matter what they
Mm,
say about the idea, I would be prepared to pay more money for quarantined fish. Well, true quarantine's 3 months. And if you if
mm,
you if your ground rent is between 500 and £1,000 a square foot, and your electricity is up at a minimum 25-35p, and staff, this is why you don't see these things versus the US as free. There are people, obviously. I know there's a guy, probably, I think he's coming to Coral Freaks, a guy called Tom Glazer, I believe, who's
yeah,
from
mantis.
Mantis Reefs, who's trying it and what have you. But generally, the word, I only ever use the word isolation, and the more that you understand what that word means versus quarantine, that's about as good as you're going to get in the UK at the moment, I'm afraid. So these are the things I learn when I'm on these travels and I see things. I think, how can I get soft corals? How, exactly listening to what you're saying, Tom. How do we get corals from the US to the UK
Yeah.
legally? I'm looking at it. It's been an ongoing process for someone like me and Laura for the last 3 or 4 years. But of course, we can't dedicate every day of the week to a subject like that. So it comes up here and there. We try new things or new ways of trying to listen to the customers and give them what they want.
Cool. Okay. Anything in particular that stood out to you in America from this trip? 'Cause you've had a couple of trips to the US, haven't you?
Yeah, an ice cream shop.
Okay. Go on, tell us more.
It was 8:30 in the evening, and fans, and someone said, "Oh, should we go and get ice cream?" And I'm thinking, well, I've been on a bit of a sugar-free thing lately, and I thought, well, I'll go for a look. I could not believe it. 8:30 on a Friday is sort of tradition in this area of America, where all the children get took by their parents. Yeah, and these are little kids. These are kids that probably should be in bed. You know, and there's mums and dads queuing out the door. 30, 40 deep into this. I can't remember the name of the ice cream shop, but it was special, this place, without a
Right.
doubt. It was
Okay.
like this. It makes Arg and Das look shit, right? But anyway, you would not believe some of those flavour combinations. Nothing springs to mind at the minute, but it could be as weird as anchovy and custard ice cream, or it could be,
Oh, right.
it
Okay.
could be anything. Imagine what you want, and and they'll have it there. But I did try some, and it was amazing. So
Okay.
yeah, there was an amazing, and I also got a chance to go and see where, as I said, obviously all the fish stuff's amazing, but there was a quiet time when March from Fragbox, his brother actually lives not far from where Fan does. Bearing in mind he's Canadian, and we're
Yeah.
around about 400 miles, 500 miles away, or whatever. But his brother's a doctor, and he works in the area. So we went round to his house, and me and Steph got a chance to sort of really see what a little bit of standard American living was like in a
Okay.
relatively run-down area,
Oh,
right?
really? Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, me and Steph had a trip to the hood, yeah, and the doctor lives, seriously. Anyway, and believe it or not, we got invited to dinner, and guess what we had we had a curry. It was like home from home, right?
Well,
Yeah,
Steph's just said in the comments, actually. Tell them about the ultrasound, Indian
yeah.
food, and gunshots.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Morning, Steph.
basically, there I am with Lizard Lady, March's heavily pregnant wife, yeah, and a doctor that patches up gunshot wounds all day long for a living, yeah, and Steph asked some questions. Seriously, you'd not believe it. This is what I mean about things that stand out. So the
Yeah.
fish,
Yeah.
amazing. But these little moments, like from when you went to America, it's
Yeah.
not the you know, you can think of, oh yeah, I went to Top Shelf, but let's be honest, it's all the little bits around it that like,
I
yeah.
was just hurting from spending $20 on 3 bottles of water. That was enough for
Yeah.
me.
Oh, I know.
Typical Yorkshireman.
They charge loads for water over there and booze, don't they? Anyway, we're on the way to this house. Me and Steph, we go into first of all a liquor store. We're in a really rough area. Well, you can't get anywhere near the counter. It's all like acrylic glass. It's like COVID glass everywhere, where you have to pass your money through a little hole to get your booze, you know, in a brown bag. It was one of them sort of places. And me and Steph thought, look at that. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they do a beer called Colt 45. It's the
Right.
worst.
Okay.
It's the worst beer you've ever had. So don't worry about the beer, right?
Okay.
But we had to buy it because, of course, it's Colt 45. We're in the, you know. So we go
Mm,
around the house. We sit down. We have this car, and I look round. I said to March, I said, "Where's Steph?" And Steph had wandered off. Yeah, like he does. Yeah, Steph. Right, and he
okay.
wandered off and he'd gone outside to do a little bit of his Yorkshire Reefer filming in the area. It's pitch black outside. And the brother of March has just told us that the reason why he sleeps in the back of the house is because of the gunshots that you hear at the front of the house through the night that disturb your
Oh,
sleep. Right? And
yeah.
no word of a lie, he ran back through the door, right? As he was filming a little bit of the street to show you know, like proper creepy houses, a lot of them did up and all sorts, you know, you know. And as he's some guys pull up hit the lights, yeah, right opposite his house, yeah, and they bang down the window and they give a bit of a stare, yeah. And then the
Oh
next
dear.
minute you can hear a siren, a police siren whizzing along, and then in the next minute Steph had his tail between his legs and he was back in. It got a bit, it was a bit dicey where we were,
Dear.
yeah, there was moments like that, and then. I said it was like a mad night, and then the next minute I'm witnessing an ultrasound scan being done in someone's kitchen. It's
Okay.
just, it's just like, you know what it's like over there, like you experience. There's
Yeah.
always something mad happening, you know, like what you know, they are mad, you know. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely one for the scrapbook then. Talking
yeah.
about Steph brief for a minute, he's had a lot of babies going off at the minute. I've seen a comment here from Polymate 3D. Morning, Polymate. Hope you're good. Thanks for joining us. I'm working hard to get Seahorse ready and then come and see you. So what I was going to say about Steph is, what's the latest on his seahorse babies even?
Yeah, well, of course, it would happen at the most inconvenient time, which is usually what happens with seahorses. They always seem to choose the moment when you're least prepared, particularly as a hobbyist. And I tried telling Steph many times, look, don't worry about the first clutch. Don't worry about it. Because the first clutch is quite difficult. You know,
Okay.
it's often where the parents are sort of practicing, if you will. But I think that this is his second clutch and he didn't see the first one. It would have been a relatively small number on the first. But yeah, he woke up yesterday, I think, and or Friday, and there he's got like a swarm of them, yeah, and
Yeah.
he's desperately trying to keep them alive just long enough, and then we'll probably help him and try and rear a few Yorkshire Reefer horses for him because he's got so much.
Do they come fully tattooed with
Yeah,
bleach blonde hair?
fully
Yeah.
tattooed with a pair of fluorescent shorts on. Yeah,
And a Leeds United.
and
Leeds
some
United.
Pokemon Crocs. I might bring that up actually. We go to Tidal Gardens, and look, Than's a pretty tidy fella. Yeah, yeah, and everyone's sort of, you know, we're all casually dressed, but Steph turns up and sits down at Tidal Gardens in his Pokemon
Yeah.
fluorescent outfit, and but I'll be honest with you, this is what I love about Steph. He is who he is, and he's like the other day. He says to me, "Hey Paul, shall I get a suit for freaks?" I said, "Do you will?" Yeah, your natural blonde. Do you will? You know what I mean? Like, you know, he is who he is. But it was so funny with them pictures. If you can find a picture at some stage of him sat at Tidal Gardens with his like Leeds United shirt on with his you know, and I'll tell
Yeah.
you something about him. That guy is never cold. I went
Yeah.
up to do some
Shorts.
I went up to do some script work with him a week or so ago, and I could not believe the temperature you lot living up there already. I mean, I was frozen up in Leeds
Yeah.
already.
It's It's a bit
Yeah.
fresh here in Rotherham today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the States, then where were you next? Then next
Well,
stage.
it's really quite hard remembering it all, but we had the worst
Okay.
flight home. I'll never forget that. Steph will tell you how much I was bitching and moaning about the flight home. There was like our flight was cancelled and all sorts of nonsense and whatever. Got seat demotion as well. You know, I'd paid for extra leg room and a better seat and all that, and ended up like in the cattle bit down the end. You know,
Oh dear.
yeah, it was a terrible flight home, and then eventually we got home, and I think there was a few days, a week later, then me and Ange had a little break in Canaries for 4 days, and then come back from that, and then a week after that we were off to Germany, but
Ah.
and that's something I think really that that was a fantastic trip. That was again only 2 days. I don't know how we pack all this stuff in.
Mm.
But in 2 days, it's very often. I mean, again, probably like your trip, Tom, to America last year. You don't sleep really, do you? You have like
Well,
you have
you've got the
5 hours.
excitement. Yeah, you've got the
Yeah, yeah,
excitement and the adrenaline, and then
yeah,
you're trying to. I
yeah,
mean, me and Jip, we went to the hotel. Obviously, they stayed at the Caribe Royale, which you've got to stay
yeah,
at if you do ever go
yeah,
to Rap
yeah,
Orlando. But we never went in the pool once. I mean, there's this huge swimming pool,
yeah,
literally
yeah,
amazing
yeah. I know.
place, and we didn't go in it once. Moaning
Yeah,
it's too hot, like typical Brits. And then there's a
yeah.
huge pool, but you don't think you're on holidays.
It's
You don't see it as a holiday. You
no,
cram
there's
so
no
much in.
time. There's no
Yeah,
time. This way I look at it on these
yeah,
trips. So when we
yeah.
arrive at Germany, Angela and I we flew into Stuttgart, and Stuttgart, yeah. I believe Albert is actually making his way, Tom, all the way from Scotland, all the way down to
Oh.
Coral Freaks.
Maybe you can pick
So
Ron up on the way.
I've never met this gentleman, but as I said, he's putting in some extra special effort, which is lovely to hear. You know.
Definitely.
So yeah, so we land in Ange and I. We take a flight from Heathrow to Stuttgart. You can't fly local to. You have to, you know. And wow, what a wonderful place. Every time I've been to Germany, I always come back and think, oh, this is what England used to be like. Yeah, the Germans will complain about it now, but for us as Brits, I think you go to Germany. This is us approaching Porsche in Stuttgart, and I'm sorry about the film quality because it was a WhatsApp thing, but you can see that there are Porsches on that monument there. That's Porsche's
Mm.
main headquarters. All the architecture there is just outstanding, and that's Porsche's museum. This is the underground car park at Porsche. So we had a little quick trip into Porsche. When I was a little boy, I always dreamed of owning a Targa or something like that. You know, I've since realised I can't afford to look after an old Porsche. But I've always really fancied it. But it's a really interesting town, Stuttgart or city, because everything that Porsche needs has to be bought within 5.5 kilometres, I believe, of the main building. So
Right.
they're sat right by, which is good because you see that brings in new business into the
Yeah.
area. So if you needed toilet rolls for Porsche, you can't buy them from Amazon. You got to buy them from a local supplier that does toiletries, for argument's sake, or cleaning products or whatever. So and if there is a business there, they will encourage someone to set up a business there. It's a sandwich maker or this. So, you know, I don't know how Corey might be able to explain that better than me, but what I really loved about this area is you had Siemens, Bosch, Porsche, Mercedes. I can't remember the rest, but Bosch and Porsche literally are side by side. Apparently, every car in the world has something from Bosch in it, right? A
Yeah.
component of some description. And Bosch and Porsche work sort of side by side, so they manufacture parts for them, and it's just a wonderful place. And give you an idea, a student in over there finishes his engineering course, will go straight into Porsche on an apprentice scheme, and as an intern, they'll get given Porsches. Yeah, to test. So, for example, they might be doing brake testing or whatever. So, as a new employee at Porsche, you'll get a Porsche. You know, so it's
Of all the tests, I'd like somebody to give me a Porsche to test. I don't think brakes would be at the top of my list, but
well, you've got to
we can
remember,
always
just
try.
down the road, you've got the Autobahn, and that was another
Yeah.
experience. I mean, I know we're not talking much about fish. We'll get onto that in a minute, and corals and things. But you know, these are all the part. Here we go. Every company works together in this area like gears from a Swiss watch. There you go. And that's what I mean. It's so efficient, as you would imagine it is. It's so clean. It's so organised. Everyone's so
Mm,
polite. You know, everywhere. I would recommend Germany as an holiday destination. It's just
mm.
so good, you know, and so efficient. And I'm sure Corey would say it isn't always like that, Paul. But you know, it reminds me of the UK in around about, I suppose, the late 70s, early 80s. There's a lot less rubbish in the roads and roads work. So,
Can you
well,
imagine you did?
I didn't need to. I was in a Kia doing 140 mile an hour on the autobahn. So can you
Wow.
imagine an electric Kia? You know, so and apparently, according to Corey, that's just cruising speed. There you go. That is just that literally 180 kilometers per hour is what an average German does on the autobahn.
Wow.
I think that works at about 140 miles an hour, to give you an idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So anyway,
talking about Corey, then we're going to go on to the guys at Nios
yes.
White Corals. Okay,
Yeah.
we're
So
going White Corals or we're going Nios first. Which way
well,
do you
well,
want to go?
so I think really we can sort of almost link the two together. So to give
Okay.
you an idea, White Corals is a retail situation that's predominantly online, if not 90% of the business is online.
Yeah.
Downstairs is retail. This is upstairs in Corey's domain, if you like. This is where he's aquaculturing a lot of corals, but he's also, this is what makes the place superb. Every single NIOS product that you might have used, looked at, thought about, Corey or one of the guys is testing that product out before release on his own corals and fish. So now
Right.
that is really reassuring as a retailer selling you these products, right? To actually see him developing and doing things. And I saw lots of future secret stuff as well, which was, you know, that's the thing about Nios White Corals, I'm going to say. For a manufacturer and a distributor, they were like an open book. It was so White Corals is downstairs in so many words.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Nios is in other areas of the factory. They also have got another massive building where they're developing developing the Nios aquariums and all of the products that you buy. This is actually at White Corals. This is Corey making plugs to the right. Yeah, and then you can see up there, it's all their own plugs are made as well. That's what I mean. They do everything themselves. If they can do it and make it themselves, they will.
That pipe work is next
They
level,
are.
isn't it?
The guy that did that pipe work was a bit like me. He think to himself, "I know, I'm going to cut all the lengths first and then glue it together." No, he did every single one by one. Apparently, Christian reckons he was on it for about 10 days or something like that, the guy that
Wow.
worked there previously. But this is so that Corey can do a water change by just moving levers. Yeah, no one has to, because it's spread over floors. So
Yeah.
it's a really strange building. You know, it's a very, so that you got Corey's farm is upstairs above White Corals downstairs. Yeah. So to move water around in this building, yeah, of which, by the way, they had a £20,000 reverse osmosis unit of the most highest quality ever. I've never seen anything like it. It's unreal. But they had, so they can do water change just by moving levers. You know, in typical German fashion,
Yeah.
everything is just so
Wow.
well organised. So they need very little staff, by the way. They don't need loads and loads of staff to do these things, which is how they think in terms of efficiency and getting things right. But say Nios is really so White Corals is almost like a necessary thing that they need because they test in they're actually an independent store, so they sell everyone's brand and they don't necessarily shelf point their own. They put
Yeah.
out all other. You wouldn't think that at White Corals, would you? Being partnership, being involved with, you think they'd only sell their own products, but they don't. They have every. There you go. The downstairs isn't ground floor, but two, yes, true, yeah. So all these different components of Nios and White Corals are on different floors, and I think it's about 3, 4 stories. I think this building. You can
Wow.
see there. yeah, where they're developing all of the liquid products. They don't buy them in. They could buy them in. They could buy them in from some chemical manufacturer, like the NIOS nitrate minus or plus or whatever. You know, they could buy all this stuff in, but they don't. They make it there. Well, I saw it with my own eyes there. And here Christian was explaining to me about the pipe work I was telling you earlier on. So let's sort of stop there in a minute. So even that plastic pipe you're looking at there is now made in Germany. They did try to keep costs down by they thought what could possibly go wrong ordering pipe from China. So the first shipment they had of pipe came in from China perfect. The next shipment they brought in had speckles of white all in the plastics and all of that. So so in the end they had to reach out to a German pipe manufacturer that does for the food industry, and now even the pipe on your NIOS aquariums now made in Germany. I mean, every single, even the cabinets are. I mean, you'd think they just ship them in from China or something like every other
Yeah.
manufacturer would do, but everything is made there. And I saw, and they were very happy to show me as well, which is why I said it was so refreshing. They were very happy to show me all of the failings, the things that had gone wrong, which is so nice and refreshing when a manufacturer is prepared to show you his full pack of cards, you know, and
Yeah.
he goes, look, I'll show you this glass. And he had 6 or 7 different front panels for, I can't remember, it was a NIOS 200 or something, different panels of glass. And he's going, look at this one. And the beveled edge is how they like it. Look at this one, where the bevel edge isn't quite the same. And then another sheet of glass and this one. And all of this costs thousands of pounds just so, you know, of waste. I saw so much waste where they were trying to get this right for you. Yeah. Like the redesign on the cabinet or this thing or that, you know, the valves and, you know, all the different valves they'd experiment with and everything. But it was wonderful. And as I said, it was so refreshing to see it. I did ask them if anyone's waiting for a NIOS aquarium, hurry, because the reason why you've had seen a delay in NIOS aquariums in the UK again is because they're moving it all in house. Originally, they did have someone putting the cabinets together, which they
Yeah.
weren't too happy with. So they've now moved it all in house. But you can imagine it's a huge task to start getting them into production again, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, it's, you know, I mean, just the warehousing for the tanks, the boxes and everything, and even the cardboard's bought in Germany for it, you know. So I can't begin. I mean, I've not been invited, for argument's sake, to Red Sea. I do know where D&D aquariums are made. I'm very familiar where they're made, and again, there's a great team behind D&D with a 50-year glass manufacturer, Seabray, right? So you know, I know where they're made, but I've never seen someone so pedantic about getting, as a manufacturer, about getting things right. And I think the one that stands out for me, and I didn't think I was going to be allowed, because there's some areas at NIOS, and like there are with a lot of manufacturers, you're not really allowed to go in these rooms. And I've been fortunate this year, because I also, when I was in April, I went to Ecotech. You know,
Yeah.
they showed me there what we refer to as Men in Black room. Once you've been in and then you come out, you never saw anything, you know. But they let me go, NIOS, let me see where they make the salt. Now, bear in mind, I'm
Oh,
already buying their salt and selling their salt. So
yeah.
it's not like they're trying to sell me anything or brainwash me, yeah? So I can say what I want here, you know? So I went in there and I started to realise how much money it costs to develop, to blend salt properly. It isn't a cement mixer where they just shovel sodium chloride off the floor and then throw it in a bucket. No, 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 no. You know, I mean, one of these machines I was looking at, this salt blending machine, I don't know if Corey's prepared to, but I'm going to throw a figure in the air and I'm going to say £150,000 for a
Wow.
machine that's, yeah, maybe more. Maybe Corey will say I've got that wrong. But he looked to me like a good 150, 200 grand machine that blends the salt. Yeah, if not more, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and just the area they manufacture the salt is as big as all of AAC and
We're
all of
having a
it.
bit of a guessing game here. Steve's saying double
Yeah,
it.
Yeah. So as I said, but what was really again for anyone out there that's using Nile salt, and look, I ain't plugging it. Look, I know Steve's in the room. I know Corey's in the room. Yes, I'm friends with them, but there we go, 500,000. There you
And
go,
with everything is
more like
retrofit, more like
1 million.
1 million.
Yeah, yeah, and I honestly, I'm going to
Wow.
say this as well. And Corey might correct me if I'm wrong. I doubt they're going to make a profit on that Nile salt for some time because I
Mm.
heard that Christian and Matthias they've done 13 years studying how to get this right. They've tried it so many times and to get this product right, and all of
Wow.
that money, you've got to pat them on the back. If you ever
Yeah.
get lucky enough to meet Christian or Matthias from Nios, pat them on the back because they're trying
Mm.
their best for you guys out there to do it. And like I said, if I get an invite to Red Sea, I'll be honest about that. And their factory, if I get an invite, they say, no, I'm not plugging one business here. I'm just saying what I saw. And I saw, which I'm going to declare, which should give you all some level of confidence about the
Reassurance. Yeah.
product. Yeah,
Confidence. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So not only did they show me various iterations of the glass where it had failed and weren't very good, they also showed me um, 6 pallets of salt that had failed the ICP.
Wow.
They didn't have to. They could have like, there, Paul, this is where we make the salt and all that. And then they went and showed me like this salt failed because it was too high in strontium. This salt failed because it was blah blah blah. This salt failed because of that.
Mm.
Yeah, and we're talking, God knows. I mean, I'd say they probably had about 20 grand's worth of salt there was no good. Yeah, that for your tank. Yeah. Well, in actual fact, it's a bit of a lie. The salt probably would be perfectly okay for most aquariums, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was high. It was just a little bit too high in strontium, or it was this thing then, right? Not that. So it wasn't what they wanted. So I
So the
said, "What are you
quality
going to do?"
control is clearly there then.
Oh yeah, and then I said, well, what are you going to do with it? It's a huge waste because you can't. Because I said, can't you throw it back in the blender and then correct it? And he went, no, because it's too complicated. How do you then rebalance all the other minor elements? Because they've been adding things like selenium, right, which is like often probably missing off ICP if you have a look, a bit like manganese. It's there 1 minute and the next,
Yeah.
but they're trying to get some minor elements now that have been nigh on impossible to get into salt blends, right? And it's astonishing. So how do you get 1 gram of selenium or something into 1 ton of salt? Now that
Mm.
process he wouldn't elaborate on. That's the little secret part that he couldn't tell me. He showed me everything else, but there's some bits they are not going to tell you. This is what took the 13 years to get there. My guess is, as a stab in the dark, is they get 1 gram of selenium into some solution, yeah, that makes it expand or something, and then how do they dry that to get that back in? I don't know, right? But it's a very, very clever process. And anyway, the waste salt gets used because they like to recycle. They're very green, yeah, as well. Everything that they do, right, white corals and Nios is incredibly green. Superb. Christians coming as well, which would be great. So it's everything they do green, Tom. They try and recycle, use all that waste salt on their fish system. There's no reason why they can't.
Yeah.
Perfectly
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
for,
Yeah. Yeah.
for fish. And even down to white corals is process, which of course Corey heads up. So white corals, Corey's sort of in charge of the farm, product development, and the overall manager as well of the stock area white. So he's got a big bleeding job. I'll tell you, it's a lot of responsibility that he's got, and he works. I'm sure. But you might see him at White Corals, but I'm pretty sure he goes home and still studying those products and things that he wants to bring to market as well. But
There's loads and loads of people in the audience that I know that are using this now salt. I mean, I've gone through numerous. I mean, at one stage years ago, I think I was trying a different brand every other month on some of the systems, and I've got to say, price, mixing, quality, absolutely
mm,
zero. I think it's a great product, and I'm not
yeah,
sat
well,
here today plugging it.
I've
I
done a
think it's a great product.
test in this particular unit I'm in because I said to when the Exodus was sort of on my case about taking on a new salt, I sort of thought, oh my God, not another one. You know, because how many salts
Mm.
do we need as hobbyists and as
Yeah.
retailers? And this year we've seen modern reef salt, which is very good, very expensive. We've seen this salt, we see that salt. But in terms of tonnage, yeah, and to show my level of independence, I've done hundreds of tons of blue bucket Red Sea over the years, and it's never let me down. All right, just to give you an idea, some balance to the conversation. But when they said they're bringing out this salt, fully synthetic, and it's been well tested, and literally, I think it took Jez and Steve a good 6 months to convince me to take on a new brand of salt. But as I was launching the Unit 5, where we breed the seahorses and started the little coral farm thing
Yeah.
going on, I thought, well, this is the ideal opportunity as a retailer for me to test this salt too. You know, and I have done now put through God knows how many. Must have been at least 8 or 10 pallets of salt have gone through this particular building that I'm sat in now, and only that salt in the salt mixing vat. And I can honestly say that, yeah, because all salt will leave a residue eventually, right? Doesn't matter what you, even the nice salt will leave
Yeah.
some residue. Yeah. But honestly, Tom, it's minimal. I can show you when you're down. You can have
Well,
a look.
I
And
know, I
yeah,
know. As a reefer
yeah,
myself, I've got an
yeah,
120 litre container. I mix the salt water up for the tanks,
yeah,
and
yeah,
this is probably the first time I'm actually thinking about this now while we're having this conversation. I haven't had to clean that vat out hardly. Maybe give it a wipe once every now and again, but nothing
yeah,
like some of the other brands
yeah,
I've used
mm,
over the
yeah.
years. Nothing like.
Yeah, so precipitation happens in salt mixing vats, and when you're as where I am in this, it's written also. If you ever, for example, eye catching corals, they've got a 10,000 gallon salt mixing vat to give you an idea. ten
Wow,
thousand gallons. It's so
wow!
big they have to use a fault truck to bring the pallet of salt
I
up
can
onto a
imagine.
platform to do it. They use Abyss flow cannons to mix the salt. Notice I said flow cannons.
Yeah,
There must be 10 grand's worth
yeah,
trade of Abyss flow
yeah,
cannons. Just means anyway. I've found that mixing the Nile salt has been. I just didn't want a vat going dirty again because around the store, when I say dirty, let's get that right. What you see that's a brown flocculent and precipitation in your salt vat isn't that bad. What the problem is that when you add more salt to that over time, that what can happen if you don't use the salt water relatively quickly with calcium carbonate deposits all around, with brown
yeah.
flocculant. What happens is over time you'll find that the carbonate hardness in the salt mix you've just made will start to precipitate out. Limescale attracts limescale, is what I'm trying to say. And that means that you may find if you've got a very, very heavily lime scaled vat that you're making your salt water in, try testing it a few hours after adding the salt, and you'll have all the values you would expect from the salt that you've bought. If you leave it in there for around about 10 days, a week, 10 days or something, you'll notice that the carbonate hardness will start dropping in that mixing vat.
Right.
And because it's starting to bond, limescale attracts limescale. So, as I said, but with the Nios salt, I've had very minimal deposits in it over time, and I'm very, very happy to be using it. And as I said to you before we come on, as a retailer, I don't make as much money out of that salt as I might make on another salt. But it isn't always about how much money you make. And as I said, it all comes down to the idea that these trips very often feed back information to me, gives me some understanding of confidence about the things that I buy and sell to you, yeah, and to
Yeah.
others, yeah, and that hobbyist in me too, as well. I don't want to be. I don't want my animals. One of the reasons why I put displays in at AAC as well is to try and give customers some level of confidence, particularly if they're new. Yeah, that hang on, these guys might know what they're talking about at the very least. They can see a display. We also get a chance to test a lot of these products out. Every seahorse that's been bred in this building's been bred on Nile salt as well. So I've made sure that I've tested it in the terms of aquaculture, if you like, yeah, for breeding fish in
Yeah.
as well. I mean, you probably don't need to use something as good a quality as Niles to do that, but it's just nice knowing that now I've brought a lot of life into this world using that particular product. I've seen that they are making sure that every bucket that you get, right, is exactly what it says on the tin as well.
Yeah.
So as I said, there's some level of reassurance. Hopefully, one day I'll get an invite to Israel and go and see Red Sea making theirs. That'll be my next one.
Well, talking of that, John, Mr. Wright has just put in here that I think he's just said he's seen a video on it. Let's have a look. Where were we? Losing myself in the comments. I saw a video. Here we go. I saw a video of the Red Sea factory. It was amazing. One thing I was going to ask you, maybe you know, I know Steph's put it in here. Exodus of a video live tonight on the new changes to the salt. So what is changing? Do you know any changes?
I don't want to spoil it too much, but I
Okay.
think, but because I was sort of witness to them filming. I mean, as much as Exodus were over there, me and Ange, by the way, just in case there's other stores, but we finance our trips. Yeah, so it's not like I get any special treatment. It's just that I knew that they were going to be there for a week, and I've said to Foxy and stuff before. I said I'd like to see it. And he said, yeah, sure, just come over. So we sort of done our own thing. Ange and I had done our own thing in the most part until we were on the road going to see something else, and then we were
Yeah.
together. Yeah. But they were doing. They were Steph and Exodus and Corey and Christian. And they were working like stink, doing videos and about the new products that are coming and little, and for you guys, the long and short of it is, that's the other thing I'd like to say actually is that for Exodus invests in making sure that that's what these videos that Steph does for them
Yeah.
and whatever. So you get a chance to see firsthand a lot of what I've just spoke about. And all I'll say is that the changes that are coming in the salt will make hobbyists feel even more comfortable with that salt. So I
Okay.
should watch that video.
Yeah. Looking forward
I
to it.
didn't know that there was going to be. I'll probably spoil a little bit of it there, but
Forward to it.
there's but I swear it'll probably be worth a watch, and you'll get more insight.
Question for you is something about where are we? Got a few comments in here. Morning to those of you that have joined us since. What are these goji berries?
Oh, he's an ass. Steph, you know this, don't you? You're already grinning, Tom, ain't you? You know, don't you?
I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about it. Come on,
I don't
spill.
know if it's an age thing. John
Oh,
Wright might be able to tell me like whether it is something that's happening to me or whatever as I'm getting older. But basically, Steph spends a lot of his time, as they do with you, Tom, on these live streams, taking the piss out of me. So I'm
okay,
walking around Nios's food production, right? So this is where they make this is where they make the goji berry pellets, the true algae, and the sweet aloe. Okay,
okay,
and that, by the way, that food is serious quality. You have look into their food. So it's not a massive seller for us at AAC. I'm going to be honest, it's not huge, but I love it. I'll tell you all, you should all give it a go. I mean, I love TDO too, but this is a good quality food. Well, anyway, I've never, I mean, I know what a goji berry is. I've seen them in the shops, right? Dried up, shriveled in packets, and, never really given it much thought about them, right? Yeah. But so I don't know how they grow, all right? Anyway, I'm at White Corals looking at, at Nios, around the factory, looking at where they're making it. And by the desk of someone, there's this sort of bucket, and inside the bucket, there's all these what look to me like walnuts, right? With like this the husk or skin and all that over them, right? And I start looking at it, and Steph, he's always taking a piss. So he goes, "That's where the wild goji berries come from." But of course, it was a walnut, and they convinced me, right, that that's
okay.
inside them like a pomegranate is where they just take the piss out of us all the time. And then I get another film when they're in France, right? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then a video from him again when acorns on the ground, and he says they're true algae. So it's just me being gullible.
All right,
They're just,
okay.
they're just taking the piss out of me all the time. That's why they're all having a little laugh.
Who
But
do you
I can't
who,
see the comments from my stupid iPad after me camera, but I can only imagine.
yes. Who do you prefer to travel with?
Who?
Who do
Who
you
do I
prefer to
prefer?
travel with?
Uh, well, I need Ange. What they saying? I can't see any of the comments, so I don't know
You
what
know,
they're saying. What do you know that yeah, go on then.
no, you're fine. I'll throw them on screen now. You can maybe be able to see them coming up. Okay, so
Yeah.
after Nios, then white corals. You and Ange had a little bit of a trip to a pet
Oh,
store.
we went to Corey took us over to Coley Zoo, which is where Corey actually started work as a guppy boy, a bit like I did at Home Marine. And in true German style, of course, what do you expect? It's bleeding excellent. Imagine your pets at home on steroids. Yeah. This place has like a 10,000 litre. There we go. This tank here was on top of a staircase with a tree, a full-size bleeding tree growing out of it, or not growing out of it, but like bogwood, right out of it. Must have been, I don't know, 5,000 litres with around about 10,000 cardinals in it. I mean, they just do everything. Just look at that.
Wow.
Look, it's just amazing, right? And that's like a pet's at home, and then they've got a Japanese koi in there. Look, like a real top quality Japanese koi in a pet's at home, and they've got top quality tropical. I didn't see fish. I didn't see a single emaciated fish. Yeah. Everything about this chain of stores in Germany is just top quality. So the LFSs, I'm told, are amazing, right? As I saw as well at White Corals, you expect. But even their pet stores, just their general pet stores, and they're pretty strict on animal welfare as well, which is quite refreshing for me
Yeah.
as well. I'm really very much about that. And I didn't, as I said, I didn't see a single ropey guppy. Yeah, I didn't see a single dodgy rabbit with an eye hanging out of it or something. Everything was just perfect. They do a few A birds, when I was a little boy, Granddad got me into that years ago, and I could tell there was no stupid cages there for sale. It's only
Wow.
much larger stuff, and I mean, I only found out from Corey that reptiles were banned in Germany for years, and
Oh, really?
certain marine fish as well. You weren't allowed to have copperband butterflies or Moorish idols in Germany. There was a certain year where that changed. Maybe Corey can put the years up for you, but Germany's quite strict when it comes to animal welfare, which I like because a
Mm.
clean, sharp, tidy, well licensed trade is a sustainable trade. Any skullduggery endangers our trade. So to see that Germany for what it is now, there are problems in Germany, like there are problems in the UK, which I'm not going to go into here. But there always will, unfortunately, be some bent behaviour, as I call it. Yeah, there you go. It was angelfish were completely banned in Germany. It wasn't allowed a single angel. I don't know what year that changed, but it was just fantastic. And then after Coley Zoo, we went to Mara's Reef, and yeah, I mean, it was astonishing.
Yeah.
She's a lovely, lovely woman, lovely family. Her husband, Christos, as well. What's amazing is I'd never met them before. Steph, of course, knows this couple really well, as does Steve and Jez, and a few people know them really well. I didn't know him at all, and I was made to feel so welcome. And then got an invite to later on in the evening out to their family business, which is restaurant. So I went to a
Ah.
really nice Greek restaurant, and I'm a big fan of Greek food, which was made it even more nicer. Yeah, but the tank is phenomenal, and this hobbyist, she's so self-critical. She was complaining that some of the corals were off colour, and she'd just had a baby, and she'd not, and she was a little bit embarrassed. So she wanted to see the guy, Steph, and see everyone, but she weren't too keen to have her picture taken with them. And she's very upset about a few things and what have you. But look at it. She's upset about that, right? It's not as good as it was. It's not this, it's not that. And typical aquarist. I've never ever met I bet you're the same, Tom. Right?
Yeah, there's always
I've
something you're
never,
not
and
happy
I
with.
am. I don't know why I'm saying that because I'm the same. I look at my display
Hmm.
tank and I hate it because I can't
Yeah,
just change. Oh, you went over this. I can't make the changes in store that a hobbyist can do at home without
yeah,
shutting the area of the shop off. And I sometimes walk in and look at it and go, oh no, you know what I mean? You know,
yeah. Oh,
I think we're all self-critical naturally as hobbyists. You look at your own tank and you think it looks okay today, but you'll never say, "Oh, I'm really pleased. Come and see my."
yeah.
You'll never.
I was moaning about it in the green room before we
Yeah,
went
that's
on
what I mean.
about
But Mark,
yeah.
she's a real. Everyone should know that Mara. So Christos tries to help her out, but she don't like Christos helping her. Like
Oh,
firstly, a
right,
bit
okay.
like, yeah, so because where she's had a baby recently, obviously she hasn't had any time. And she hadn't been very well as well, unfortunately. So there's about 3 months that she couldn't spend on that tank. And I'll give you a level and understand of her dedication. Every single day she'd be up the step ladder with a bad back. She's got terrible back problems, bad back with a turkey baster, and she bastes every coral every day just to make sure there's no detritus accumulation on the corals.
Wow,
She
wow.
is so dedicated.
Meticulous, dedicated. Yeah.
And what's even more nice, not only is she really humble, she's not arrogant and look at my SPS tank and all that. She's so humble as an individual and so self-critical of her tank. I just found her an outstanding hobbyist,
Mhm.
and she's
There are
trying to
some.
pull off. She's trying to pull off, right? What for me, it's a cubes are really difficult. I've always found that cubes, for terms of water flow, are right pain in the ass. Yeah. Um, and Christos, he keeps saying to put me. He kept saying, put more chalice corals in, put more chalice, and she don't like them. He loves them, she don't like them. So, but she's totally obsessed by acros. And I said, you've chose one of the most difficult to pull off. I said, you are going to have up and down days, so, don't expect it to be good all the time. Any coral farmer, retailer, expert, hobbyist, whatever, yeah, is going to have, if you go down that road of pure acros, you're eventually going to have problems. That's the way I see it. After the decades I've been doing this, you will have a tank, it looks amazing for 2, 3 years, and then something will go wrong, and then one day you come in and something stripped or this is so if you're going to get purely just into SPS corals, you have to take the rough with the smooth.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. One thing I wanted to ask you from your reefing journey or journeys, should I say, is what are some of the biggest differences that you sort of you've picked up on in terms of reefing styles around the world? Anything that stands out that you'd be like, why'd you do it that, or never thought of that? Anything in particular?
um I don't. I mean, I'm probably almost the wrong person to ask because I've seen, without being, if it's sounding, I see so much
Yeah.
that, like, that what you see at AAC is a blend of everything that I see, and I'm sure for those guys, I know with Fan, for example, when he came here to what is almost embarrassing compared to what he's got, you know, and then he looks around, he goes, "I love the way you do that," so they even though that those guys. Pat and Trina, when they were here about the
Yeah.
seahorses, they were learning about that because they were growing a few. And I went over to Canada and then I showed. So, for example, some products, for example, in Canada are really difficult to get. They can't get hold of really good quality mysis shrimp, which we need for the seahorses. And then I'm rummaging through Pat's freezer and I find this new shrimp, which comes from Asian supermarkets. I can't
Okay.
even remember what it's called now. So, in terms of differences, yes, I do see lots of differences on these travels, but they're not too far away from things that we're already doing.
Right. Okay.
Um, it might well be like one of the things I remember, Tom, from Reefer Palooza when we were there back in April was macro lay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The dragon breath and all that.
yeah, just what it is it was more about getting back to basics, the about what I call simple full spectrum reefing. And what I mean by simple full spectrum reefing is really sort of going back and understanding the basic biology. yeah, of how a reef tank really works, yeah, and also trying to replicate aquariums that are also so macro ladies little tanks. They were literally goldfish bowls with a little bit of white sand, a white freshwater LED, a little bit of macro algae, and a little bit and a pygmy seals, so dwarf seals and all that. And it was just so things like that. I've never seen that done over here. I think we should see more.
Mm.
There are actually, there's one or two people I've seen that have done small bowl type systems with a. I'd like to, so that was quite inspirational for me. Why does reefing have to be 3 million quid? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
You can, I mean, I'm looking at
definitely.
you, Tom, with your Stratton, your nice tank, and your 85-foot aquarium in your house, and
Yeah,
and
and then
it's
the
like,
garage, and it's
and in the
yeah,
garage, and we were talking about that earlier, weren't we?
yeah.
About, there is a point as a hobbyist, you think I've done really well with that tank, so let's get another tank, and then you think I've done all right with that one, so let's get and in the end, it becomes
Well, it is for me. It's the Pokemon sort of scenario with
yeah,
corals.
yeah,
I'm now at a point where I'm like, I fancy getting some different types of corals that I don't have in the DT or this one behind me. But
yeah,
where do you put them?
mm,
So it's like, oh, I'll convert my garage and just have a 10-foot coral table, and then I'll
yeah.
have more corals. But what you don't realise is how much effort it takes to maintain it at a reasonable standard,
Yeah, and
and
money,
and
and
money
money.
and money
Yeah,
and money.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I keep trying to explain when we're on the shop floor and stuff. And I've got some really good. They're not everyone's just a customer. I've got there's a guy that I talk to a lot that came to walk through AAC's doors 13 years ago, and he's been a customer ever since. Yeah,
yeah.
and he's not got an aquarium at the moment. He's going to be helping me at Coral Freaks doing the raffle next weekend, right? And I'm trying to teach people at the minute, choose an aquarium that suits your lifestyle.
Yes,
Because
very important.
what tends to happen is that, and definitely don't try and keep up with the Joneses. What I'm trying to say is there's enough animals in the UK of various different guises to be able to set different systems up. And that's when I'm on travels, things that are different. Over in America, you will find, I mean, if you remember Blaine, right,
Yeah,
he was very much into aquariums that I personally into at the moment, which is more natural lit, bit of
yeah,
macro, choosing the animals to fit the scape, rather than, buying the obvious animals that because everyone else has got them, so, I'm all about at the moment trying to encourage people to not overspend because I need a business
mm,
that runs forever. And what I don't want to see is hobbyists piling stuff onto themselves to the point where it's almost like a financial catastrophe. So, choose a
mm.
nano if a nano suits your budget, and if you're traveling a lot, maybe automate that nano. So, in
Well, I
terms
just
of
think it's
post,
the addiction. I just think it's the addiction side.
well, it
You've
is an
got to have one
addiction.
of them all, haven't you? You
Yeah,
want to get
yeah.
them
So,
all. You have
um,
to, and then it's
there
like
is,
you haven't got
there
room, so get a
is,
bigger tank. That's how it
there,
happens.
there is. Maybe we should have a just say no campaign like they had back in the 80s for heroin or something. You know what I mean? But you're absolutely right. It's an incredibly addictive hobby. So, but we do try with customers to always try and friends to try and say to them, look, try and choose a tank that, especially now with the way things are out there, financial climate wise and what have you, is to try and be more reserved with your shopping because the way that translates back down to AAC and my business senses is that if you can afford that and enjoy it, yeah, that's good enough. It's knowing when to stop. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the issue. It's the knowing when to stop, and really a reef tank. I mean, the one that I've just recently done at home, I could have had anything I wanted. I could have had any alkalinity machine I fancied. I'm spoilt to death, is the reality. I could go
Mm,
in there, mark it down off a shop stock, go and look at research and development wise, and I can study that product, can't I? Yeah.
yes.
I could have anything I wanted. And what did I do? I had an old freshwater blade. I had an old blue blade, a Kesel that was knocking around in the back of Joe's van, an old Red Sea pendant light fitting, and I made my own lighting rig. Yeah, and anyone
Yeah.
can do that from second-hand parts for starters. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know. And then I went and got myself not a brand new top quite. I went out and just got an all glass tank made, a box, which is about £300 or something. Yeah, and trimmed it. Yeah, and and that's you know, that's my tank. And then, but what? How did I make it work? Well, I made it work because I wanted it automated. So I had so the money that I did spend all went into the Neptune system to auto water change it, so I don't have to
Yeah.
mess around when I'm away. Yeah, and it's monitored because I travel a lot, and that's what I mean about finding an aquarium that suits my budget at home. Yeah, that isn't too demanding in terms of chemistry because I don't want to come in of an evening and start having to worry about alkalinity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
alone. I don't want to crawl around on the floor into a sump after doing it all day long. So I chose that tank around my lifestyle. Yeah, that suits me for travelling, not being too demanding when I get home. And I would urge reefers to really think about that because some of the conversations I um, and actually, I'm just thinking of one particular guy that we share a good friendship with. It's a monster tank, and it costs monsters of money to look after, and also a huge worry if you're travelling a lot. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
me and Kaz were obviously hoping. Well, we still are trying to. I'm hoping to get to wrap next year, and we're having
mm,
the conversation about if we went. Because obviously, she'd love to go to see the Disneyland thing, and I
yeah,
think I must have been sat there for about a long time, kind of trying to contemplate who on earth I could trust to come to my house, give keys to the house because that's the other thing. You know, you've got to come into the
yeah,
DT and this one upstairs, and then the garage, who's genuinely going to it's got to be somebody as a reefer because if you get somebody that's not a reefer, I think that's a little bit more dangerous. Get somebody to look after it all, and there was nobody that I could think of
yeah.
that could.
And that's what I mean as well. I mean, you can automate as much as you can, but ultimately you still need human intervention,
Yeah,
to do it, And as I said, it's a pretty serious thing because you can't really own an aquarium. You can't really own an aquarium that restricts your lifestyle. And that's what I mean. This is what I'm trying to at the moment trying to explain to people. As I said, particularly in this economic climate, don't overspend. Is my message. Find something that suits you and enjoy it. There's enough animals out there. It doesn't all have to be about SPS corals.
no,
Even
totally
I've
agree.
got. I mean, I grew when I first started growing SPS corals. I don't know some 20 odd years ago or whatever it was. Oh, that's what my brain was just filled with them. That's all I could ever think about was SPS corals. And of course, because it tested your ability. And the good thing about just
I don't think you want to drive from Scunthorpe, Alan, all the way to my house.
if
Not that
he
he's offered,
does,
bless him.
yeah, I think he would be the man. Yeah, yeah. Well, or the baby Dave can drive up, couldn't he?
Oh, dear. Well,
Yeah,
just one thing I did want to give a shout out to this morning,
yeah.
on a
Go
little
on.
bit of a similar note, was our good old loyal OG John Wright, who's hopefully I don't normally do this on the network, but he's ideally trying to find a new home for his black ice snowflake clowns. So if anybody, this is shutting a tank down, I think, or is making some changes. So if anybody has got a home or willing to take them on and would like to get in touch with John, there's his Instagram. I'm not going to give you, obviously, contact number as such, but drop him a message. It'd be nice if he could find a nice home
Yeah.
because
I mean,
I think that's something.
if
Go
he's
on.
really stuck, by the way, and he's because I know that I'm really pleased about this. In fact, I said on the Friday stream, I don't know what it is. I see John as my good luck charm. Yeah, I'm incredibly nervous about next weekend, as I always am. And I'd love to reef as well. It just brings a ray of sunshine into the room when John and I said to him the
That's
other
the
night.
shirt. That's the
Yeah.
shirt.
Well, it is, but that's what I mean. It's just it literally he does, and I'm
Yes.
really looking forward to seeing him next weekend. But John, if you're really stuck and you don't find anyone, we're going to be really busy that day. But if need be, you can always bring the hounds in, and then we'll put them into isolation into four for a bit. So if you get really stuck, let me know. But I'm sure there's a hobbyist out there looking for a really beautiful, what looked to me like a
Yeah.
really beautiful pair. They look like
Black
they're
ice snowflake
yeah, yeah,
clowns.
very nice.
So good luck, John. Hope you find them a nice new home. Morning, Jamie. Hope you're good.
Morning,
So
Joe.
you mentioned there you're saying you're a bit nervous about next weekend. Wow, what's happening next weekend? Come on, then.
Uh,
We're all
yeah,
excited
so
for this one. Talk us
yeah,
through it.
so I have to sort of. It's going to be the last Coral Freaks, I think, for me. That doesn't mean that the brands as such, the name Coral Freaks isn't likely to go. I believe I'm going to be maybe passing this brand, if you like, on to Steph a little bit for him to do something with, of which you never know, I might be part of it. But the responsibility of Coral Freaks for me next year is too much for me to contemplate, because next year I've got to get my head down and do some work and try a little bit harder here and do try and get some new projects running which are now delayed by a year. When Love to Reef, so when Paul does Love to Reef, that's 3 months worth of brain damage leading up to the day. And very often I sort of help Paul, and I'm thinking about it 3 months leading up to the day as well. And Coral Freaks is a good 3 to 4 months leading up to the day of organising everything. So if you take 6 months, if you take sort of 6-8 weeks out of a business calendar, that's an awful lot. So next year I've really got to try harder at work, shall we say. And also really now, Tom, I think it's I've been doing shows since 2019, and I'm a little bit tired, to be honest with you, being honest about it. So yeah, I think this will be the one, but it is going to be a really special one, and I always knew it would be, because as I said, to have Mr. Sprung grace UK shores, the last time he was here was in 2009 in the UK.
Yeah.
So it's going to be real. I mean, just having Julian. I mean, Corey is such a humble guy that he turned around when I said to him about Corey, how do you fancy doing it? He said, "What, me? What, sat on the stage with Julian Sprung and Tony Vargas and Jamie Craigs and all?" He was like, he couldn't believe it. I mean, this is the sort of effect that this gentleman's had. Certainly, I would have guessed on you, Tom. I mean, there will be people in the chat that may not really know really much about Julian, but you trust me, their tank is set up using Julian principles.
Me and Drippy went to talk to him at RAP, and every time we just couldn't find the timing right, because we actually got him where he wasn't talking to somebody, and he just about to take a bite into his sandwich, and we were just like, "Yeah, we'll come back," because it was Ron's birthday at the time. We wanted to get him to send Ron a video message, which he did. He was a great sport. I'm looking forward to catching up with him and speaking to him.
Yeah, he's what a gentleman, Tom. As I said, because I know you told me a little bit about your background. You said to me that your mum was the first person with a reef tank in your family
in the 90s.
And I'm telling you now that your mum and you probably that tank was built around what I call, I mean, they refer to it as the Berlin method.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was the Indonesians that came up with the idea of what they referred to back then as living stones with air bubbles to create this natural system. 1969, I think it was, the Indonesians first mentioned about trying to do it, and we just thought they were stupid and went on to build loads of trickle filters and acrylic things to do.
We were bleaching corals actually with bleach back in the day to make them white.
Putting them in a fish. So and then of course when we get into the late 80s, where that style that you're talking about, the bleached corals, you go into a Chinese restaurant or something and you'd see like a emperor angel and a porcupine puffer and a seahorse in the same tank, floating about with a batfish. With that style of tank, that style started to die out. I think it was round about 1989. That was when 1990 was the year when things started changing, and there was this. This is like everyone was only. I'm giving you an idea how ridiculous it is. It's when people started using the internet.
And the dial-up internet, you had to sit all night waiting.
No, a little bit better than that. But then we were looking at things like there was a firm called the Geothermal Research Foundation. I don't know if you remember that, Tom.
No, I don't. No.
Right. Well, they were the first people to cultivate soft corals like psychophytons and things like that. And that's what first inspired me. So with coral cultivation, that's the first moment for me with coral cultivation, around about 1991, probably 92. And then all of a sudden, this name started appearing in the, and a few names started appearing, David Saxby. Yeah, that was your first times you started hearing about it. You know, Julian Sprung, Tony Vargas, and there's a whole plethora. Mike Paletta. You know, there's a whole
Yeah.
plethora of people that are from that period, about 1992, 19. And then Julian wrote what I believe was the easiest to read manual on how to set a reef tank up ever. He basically popularised reefing, and that's really why I invited him as such. Would he? Or I actually asked him. I thought he was going to tell me no. You know, like I really did. And I said, Julian, how do you find? Well, no, that's not true actually. Angela wrote an email to do with some stuff that we were ordering or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Angela was writing an email, and in Julian actually wrote in the bottom of that email. He went, because he'd been watching what we've been doing with Love to Reef and these other
Yeah.
things and all that. He said, let me know if ever you're doing another one of those sort of shows. I might be available.
Oh.
So I wrote literally within about 3 minutes. I sort of wrote back, "Can you do the coral freak?" So like a little
I've booked you
puppy.
in.
Yeah, I thought, oh my word, he's sort of practically offered, and I have to say, not only is he offered, but you know, Julian's also self-financed, which is amazing because you know, Freaks is about raising money, and of course,
Yes.
everything for mind as well. And of course, there's huge costs involved with Coral Freaks, as just for that 6 hours worth of fun. And you know, and he's so gracious. You've met him, Tom. This is
Mm.
someone who's worldwide famous who doesn't do social media. Yeah.
Yes.
Just like David Saxby doesn't
I
do
think
so.
he's got such a very therapeutic voice, though. His tone.
Oh, he
Could
has.
kind of
He
listen.
has.
He could send you to sleep, and I don't mean that in a rude way. I just
No,
mean
yeah.
literally
Well, I said that to
therapeutic.
Than. I'm not sure Than received it as well, but I said to Than actually, I went, Than, I said, I don't watch many YouTube videos on coral care and things, but I do love your videos. I said, and I'll tell you something else, and this is a compliment. This is
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
said, your videos put me to sleep.
I know exactly
To
what you
Than,
mean.
right? And because his voice is so calming and so nice, a
Yeah.
bit like Julian's is, right?
Yeah. Very
And
much.
and he looked at me with horrors, and I said, no, look, Julian, if you knew me, I don't smell at all. Yeah, so this is like really something to find something that's that therapeutic and that relaxing, you know. So, but yeah, I am absolutely blessed to have Julian Sprung, and I'm sure people will next week will really get a picture of him. And of course, then there's the other guys as well. You know, like Jamie and Tony Vargas were there last year, but both these guys wanted to be here this year. And
Yeah.
Jamie Craggs has got way more to tell you than what's in it. In 1 year since Coral Freaks, everything's changed for Jamie. So Jamie's got a whole new plethora of things to tell you about.
Nice.
Tony Vargas, everything's changed for him this year. He wanted to come back, but I actually wanted Tony back because Tony basically, I believe, is that brings that ray of Florida sunshine to the room, and us stuffy Brits need a little bit of Tony Vargas in our lives. He'll bring us out of our shell that day, as will Steph. You know, him and Steph talk, I think, quite a bit. They're very similar. There's going to be a lot of good, positive energy in the room with Steph, yeah, or Yorkshire Reefer and Tony Vargas. They're bringing the energy. But the reason why, and Jamie, of course, is the UK's #1 export,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, in our reefing game. Come on, you know, this guy is like a Julian Sprung, he's set the world alight with what he's done, and now there are people all around the world using Jamie's and Mike Sweet's techniques on spawning corals. Right,
Corals.
the future's bright, and well, I'm not going to spoil it, but Jamie's got loads to tell you. Right, yeah, without a doubt, you're going to love his bit.
And you have
What
the
he's doing.
smiling assassin as well that you've not mentioned. The the bacteria boy.
Right. Oh, yes. And as I said, now the reason why it's Salem and Corey, as I explained to Corey, when Corey was going, oh, you know, he was almost saying to me, and I know he's in the chat, so I hope he don't get embarrassed, but he was saying, well, you know, he was sort of painting a picture to me. I'm not worthy of being on the stage with these. I said, chart. You know, he's like,
Mm.
you know, people don't realize. Like, Corey is like, and Salem are the future. You know, I feel like look, I'm 55. I would hope that I'm done and dusted by I'm 65. Okay, so I've got my 10-year plan now that I'm looking at. Yeah, as to like how I ease away but don't lose AAC spirit. You know,
Yeah,
come on,
definitely.
I've done 35 years prison sentence in retail. Yeah, I wouldn't mind staying in the back room, growing coral, sweeping a broom, polishing glass, you know, but I want to be the old git before long. I can't wait, you know. So, but the new youth that's coming through right now is far more exciting than I'll ever be,
I
you
could
know.
just
So,
picture Ange's face when you said pick up a broom, because I'm sure that's not a common exercise.
do you know what? I love sweeping up because that's the time
Oh,
that I'm thinking. That's the time that
okay,
I'm thinking about
fair
things. I
enough.
used to get told off by my old boss as well when I was managing Home Marine. He said, "I pay you too much money to sweep a broom. What are you doing?" Right? And I go, I'm listening to, I'm thinking about what I've got to do, you know. So as I said, the new youth in the room, Salem. Salem at the moment, people are going to say, well, what does he do? What does he do? You know, this, you know what I mean? This is what
Mm.
Steph was almost saying. What does he do? But for me, Salem is the sort of link to the hobby that we need, because this guy has studied all of those coral ailments and problems and bacteria. He understands the biome better than anybody else does. He also is the a voice of opinion when it comes to what I believe. Hello, Ian. Is a voice of opinion when it comes to things like should we or should we not use ciprofloxacin? You know, and what I want you all to do next weekend is, if you've got any questions that you know, that are like, let's test the old boy, you know,
Yes.
because I'm telling you now that Salem's probably going to be one of those reef keepers when I retire, and so that will make him what, 40 years old or 35 years old or something, right? He will be the guy that
He'll have
works
just turned
summer.
18, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He will be the guy that develops or be part of a bit like as well, like Corey. They will be talking about live bacterial feeds for MPS corals.
Yeah.
They're going to be, you know, when I started keeping corals, oh no, you can't keep acros. Oh no, 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 no. Acros are impossible. You're better off just bleaching
Mm.
them and putting them in your tank white. No, you know. So, and look at where we are now. In that couple of decades, yeah, we now keep SPS corals. Not only just keep them, but we've got the geezer there that spawns them as well.
Yeah.
So apparently, once upon a time, and Julian was the first guy to write about the possible keeping of stony corals, as was Tony. Tony Vargas was one of the first guys, and that's why Julian, he'll let you know next week, but that's how them two met. Julian didn't believe that it was a live acro in captivity or something like that. Yeah. And he
Well,
went and visited Tony. And I remember those early pictures of Stuber's acropora, you know, under white light, brown with a blue tip. You know, it was the Stuber's acropora was the first one that started moving around Germany and things like that. So why are they there? So, and Corey and Salem are the youth. They're the future of this. So where I'm leaving off, these two guys. These guys are coming forward. You know, and you know, with people like, if you just pick them three for a minute, Salem, Jamie, Corey. Yeah, you know, as much as Julian and Tony are amazing, but just pick them three, Salem, Jamie. What a combination them three are. You know,
yeah.
put them lot in the same room and make them
Room.
work together. So
Yeah,
imagine
exactly.
imagine what would happen if you had a
Yeah.
Salem, a Jamie, and a Corey working together in the
Mm.
same room. Can you imagine what the coral food's going to be
Mhm.
like in the future?
Exactly.
There's going to be none of this guessing games no more. We think that corals eat phytoplankton. No, they don't, by the way. I don't think they do, but there you go. That's another story, right? But you know, there's my
Yes.
bit of controversy there. It does have a benefit, phytoplankton, but yeah, I don't believe corals feed on fire. Not pretty much none of them do, is what I'm going to say. I'm sure there'll be one, right? But I'm pretty convinced that most of our corals, particularly MPS coral, well, feed on coral snow or snot that's in the water that has a lot of myriad of other bacteria and
Yeah.
microplankton and things all netted in it, you know. So, but these guys are going to be the ones that later on they actually will actually be particularly. They're going to have this. I might be dead, but
Mm.
like, ultimately,
Yeah.
you know. So they are. So the lineup was incredibly well thought out. We've got the king, we've got the prince, yeah, we've got the wizard. You know,
And you've got the Queen hosting it.
absolutely the proper Quanos in it. And actual fact, Stefan came to me, so Jeremy, superb job, right? And
Yeah,
Jeremy was for me, Jeremy was up for doing this one too, right? And it was, but at the end of last year's free, Steph said to me, he went, "Oh, I'd really like to do this." I said, "What, really? Are you sure?" But of course, you only ever see you only ever see the end result, right? Yeah,
yeah,
you don't see what happens before it, leading up to it, and all the rest of it. But Stefan wanted to do it, and of course, at the time, Jeremy was moving to Finest Aquatics, where he's now store manager. Yeah, and I just knew that he wouldn't have time. At the time he did Freaks before, he was still sort of working freelance as an editor. Yeah, and as writing for people and things. So
oh,
he had more time.
Steve's
Yeah,
calling him the
yeah,
Queen from now on. Sorry, Steph,
yeah.
just came up with that.
Queen Steph. Yeah, but
Oh, dear.
I think, and Tony Vargas actually made a comment as well, that I think that Steph's the right face for this job because, I've always said that my vision for this reefing audience it was to remove the stuffiness from talks. Now, me and you, Tom, can sit in an hour-long talk where they just talk about alkalinity and find it really interesting, but not yeah, but not everyone can.
Could do
Yeah,
it for 3 hours if
and
I've got a beer.
that's what I mean. Me and you are train spotters, what I refer to as train spotters. Yeah. So we're quite happy to sit there and listen to hours and hours of conversation about in-depth subjects. But the vision I had for a reefing audience with always was, how do you make a talk interesting again? And I think, and also without pressure for the
Yeah,
for the for the for the guests. So the guests, they don't really have a clue even now what questions are going to be thrown at them or what Steph's going to
yeah,
say. And that's what we like about it. We'll do a small rehearsal on the Friday in the afternoon, so they sort of know what's coming, but they still won't know to the moment that questions are directly asked to them, which I think makes it far more snappy, a bit like a live
yeah,
stream or a
definitely.
podcast or a thing like
Yes,
that. So, and the
off
other
the
thing I
cuff.
want you to do is make sure that the hobbyists and the public feel like they're part of it, a bit like this sort of live stream where the commenting's
Mm.
going on and all of that. So it's really good, and no question stupid, by the way. As I said out there, and the people that I've chosen, Julian, he wouldn't care whether you asked him a question about basics of biological filtration or whether he was talking about some other in-depth chemistry
Mm.
subject. Yeah. And that's another reason why those particular, and Salem, to be fair, you spent a lot of time with him,
A lot of time. Yeah,
as intelligent as he is, beyond intelligent, yeah, often, he's still a good guy to sit around with and have
yeah,
a
it's the
dinner
person.
and,
Yeah,
a mess
exactly.
about,
And I think
so
that's one of the biggest draws for me is on the back of the network starting is exactly pulling people together. Yes, the
yes.
people are coming to listen to these people, these amazing reefing
Mm.
royalties. I've referred to it in the comment section, but yeah, I mean it's just great to meet up with some of the guys. I mean, obviously we live different ends of the country. We can't always just hop in the car like Drippy, or certain people can be 10 minutes away
Yeah.
to AAC. So it's nice to see a lot of you in the comments that are going to be hopefully joining us there next Saturday
Yeah, I
for that
think it's
social
really
aspect.
lovely. What
Yeah.
you I mean, what you and the guys did is something that should be commended. So all of these shows, these events, were because of hobbyists. What
Yes.
do AAC get right? So what do we get out of it? Let's be absolutely clear. All I will get out of this is publicity for the store. There's my bit, which is so it's a very expensive advert for the day,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But one of the reasons why I did started these things was because one, hobbyists were complaining they never had anything. That was the first thing. Yeah. And we did used to have, as you will know, Tom, like Reef Club
Mm.
store visits.
Yeah.
We used to have Essex Reef Club turn up with a few guys, and you would naturally, and we used to have it at Home Marine as well. Various different clubs would turn up on a certain night or a certain thing, and you'd give them a trade, sort of give them a discount, or
Yeah.
you do things for them. And that sort of died a death. That went away as forums faded, these Reef Club visits
Well, I
faded
think it's because
away.
everybody started falling out with each other, which that still happens to this
But
day,
it
and
does, unfortunately,
it's a bit sad, isn't it? Really, because
it
we
it
really
it,
need everybody to
it
get on with each other. It's a
It
fish tank, for
really is
God's
sad.
sake.
This I wasn't really going to raise that actually, but I think we should raise that. Look,
Yeah, I
because
think we should.
because what I've noticed is that where everyone's in the same room, and that goes both ways. So it's not me telling off. Obviously, we can even talk about the trade because the trade's no different. When we're all in the same room, we're all happy. Everything's fine. The problem we've got is this is social media and people's perceptions of the way that people comment in things. Yeah. There are always going to be people that you can't get on with. I agree. It's not like we can all love one
Yeah.
another and sit down like hippies burning joss sticks and whatever together, right? So there's always going to be some
That's the
animosity.
Green Man on the Friday night.
Yeah, but exactly that though. So when I know that with and it's like it is said in the trade, try should at least all try. This the hobby is a very lonely place. Mostly, people that get into the hobby are relatively insular. Someone once said to me,
Mm-hmm.
means they're sort of and one of the things why people keep aquariums generally, those that are really into it, is it's escapism.
Yeah.
It's a form of, like we were talking earlier on about the addiction to
Yeah.
adding more in your aquarium than you really should have, or you're adding, more extra layers and things like that. So look, let's be honest. Most people get into aquariums as a form of escapism. When they're staring into their beautiful reef tank, yeah, no, they're not really thinking about much else. They might be looking at it thinking, "Oh my God, that thing's stripping there," but that still
Yeah.
took your mind
Mind off.
away
The
from
9 till
your day
5.
job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So even when the aquarium's going to shit, it's still taking you away from whatever it was, that madness that's in your mind or in your brain. And I think that we're all it's still unfortunately a very male dominated hobby, which in America, Tommy, isn't.
Yeah.
It's there's a
I would
50-50
say
mix.
50-50. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
50-50
Yeah.
in the States. And I don't know what it's like in Germany. I wonder if it's like that in Germany. Maybe Corey can comment on that. But Mara, of course, is an
Mara.
amazing reader.
Mm.
Is it 50-50 there? Is it just the UK where it's all male dominated? I don't know. That's one question I can't answer. But I think it's fundamentally important that people try at least to get on with one another, because I know from what I see with my own eyes when not just the Reefers Network but other things that have been, when you're all in the same room, you lot, I mean, it's amazing the
Yes.
energy that comes from the energy that comes out of the Green Man, what I've seen. I mean, and I'm sure it's happened with you when you've gone up to Finest or you've gone elsewhere and you've visited other stores. The energy that's in the room is amazing. You're all, I know there's a lot of piss taking that goes on and messing about and that, but that's all part of it. But the reality is social gatherings like that, they heal. So if there has been animosity recently
Yeah.
or in the past, and then you happen to be in the same room, and I can think of names in my head where in this very space, people have met one another and they didn't think they liked one another. And then the
Oh,
next
definitely.
minute,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
they're friends,
Now the best
And as I
mates.
said,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Definitely.
I've had some very tricky times in my times with stores, yeah, where me and a particular store it was quite tricky at times. And then I had to go at a funeral once, unfortunately, where a very famous person in our trade had died, which was real sad. And my competition, like a serious warring competition, shall we say, is in the same space as me. I see Robbie there.
You won't be the only one.
And I've had to shake her hand. And
Yeah.
I've had to shake her hand and get on with it. And
I think
and
I
I'll
think
tell you that
you just need to remind yourself this is just a fish tank. It's just a
exactly.
tank of water. Yeah, there is
Yeah,
more to life. You use that tank of water, whatever you've put in it, whether you agree that somebody else does it, I don't know, you prefer a coral or a fish or a style different to somebody else. That is one of the benefits of this hobby. You can do it your own way, reef your own way, can't you? But just because
absolutely.
somebody else doesn't do it your way doesn't mean you
Yeah,
don't want to talk to them.
absolutely. But I suppose that's. I mean, I'm not into football, and I know we're rodders. Yeah, for example, we might be
Oh,
able to elaborate.
He's a massive Arsenal fan, isn't he?
Exactly. That's what I mean. Now, for you, I don't think you're that much into football, Tom, are you?
No.
No, you're
No,
like me.
no.
But ultimately, for me and you saying that, taking the piss out of their football teams, taking the piss out of the football teams, for me and you, it means nothing. But for them, oh, it's serious. And what I'm going to
Yes.
say is that I see it in the football world where people argue. Yeah, exactly that, Foxy. What's that say? I think we all need to remember that we're all here for the same reason. We love the hobby in
Yes.
our own way, and that's right. And there is no right. I can't stand snobbery. I mean, you know that about me, Tom. Any snobbery, particularly in the
Yeah.
SPS world, pisses me right off. Yeah, because there is many ways to grow a coral. There are many ways to
Definitely.
grow an aquarium and all of that. And I do find that secular part of the hobby seems to be more clicky than most because it's the talking
Yeah.
subject, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I literally Barry and the boys are there. If I have a new couple walk in and it's their first ever tank, I'll to feed off of their energy, buying their first clownfish or their
We,
first mandarin. And these are
you
the
know what?
people I get on.
Yeah. You know what Kaz says to me though about it? It's just a group of guys having a massive cock off. Who's got the
It
biggest one in
really
the
is.
room?
Yeah, yeah. I think Kaz is
That-
absolutely spot on with that. Yeah,
That's
we
what she
do.
says.
I think so. As I said, in terms of these social gatherings and social meets, I think that this year gone and it has been a wonderful thing for the Reefers Network, and I think it would be a shame to see any of that break down. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone in the room, just remember, I have to face some pretty tricky situations in my business world, and I have to get on with them.
Yes.
So as I said, you can't, do it, and like that, and I don't think we were going to be talking about this sort of thing this morning, but I'm sort of glad we did because that green man energy is what you lot
Yes.
are about. Forget coral freaks, honestly, don't worry about it, all right? But when you lot are down in that green man, and you're all you've even got your own bleeding bench outside these days, you
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean, where you always magnitude towards,
Although
so
I
I
have
think
actually booked a couple of tables this year because I was actually concerned about sitting outside.
because it's freezing.
It's and I don't want to be next to the heater because whoever sits next to the heater
Don't
has to
worry,
constantly.
Steph will be there in his shorts. Last weekend when I was in Leeds, it was about 7 degrees. He was still wearing shorts, and I had to have thermals underneath my jeans to go for a dog walk.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so yeah.
Yes.
So
Right.
anyway, I really look forward to seeing everyone next weekend, the Reefers Network
Yes.
particularly, and
Thank
all
you.
of those hobbyists that put in the effort. Like I said, I know that we've got gentlemen from Scotland. I know we've got Alan and people coming from down north, and John Wright. I knew that he first said that he couldn't make it. He was worried driving and stuff, and I understand that. I'm not a keen driver in the dark either, believe it
Mm.
or not. So I saw, but everyone seems to be making an effort to cut to freaks, which is touching. But as I said, and I'm really pleased you are because, as I said, it's quite an emotional one. This one for me, I
Yeah.
don't really want to there's more to it than what I'm probably letting on, but there's this will be it for me,
And
So
just one point on the network. It's not a single. It's not a separate group. The Reefers Network is literally just a sort of, I suppose, a push of pulling people together, not pushing
yeah,
people away. That is all
yeah,
it is. So if
yeah,
you want everybody's part of it, 'cause you all have a fish tank. So that's it.
yeah,
Whether or not
yeah.
you
You
want to
don't, yeah,
get
that's
involved
it.
more,
So
that is completely down to you. That
yeah.
is
Yeah, I
exactly it.
think I think the whole idea, Tom, was that you just thought let's get out and do some store visits together and that. Yeah.
It literally came from I say this time and time again. It literally came from that I used to spend most of my Saturday mornings, if not afternoons, down at my LFS. I'd gone down for some water. Kaz would be ringing me 4, 5, 6 hours later saying, "Where the hell are you? Just went for some water." Because I just loved bouncing off other reefers, sharing ideas. You maybe swap some frags in the car park, somebody give you a second-hand skimmer, whatever. And I didn't realise how much I leaned on that mentally and physically with people. And when I didn't have that, I missed it. And then I was kind of found the sort of YouTube. Obviously, I did the Friday nights with Fish Palace in Jay for just over a year, and I loved that. And realised, well, actually, there must be a lot of other people in similar circumstances to myself that don't have an LFS that they can just hop out to, or know, every Saturday and have a bit of sort of companionship along the way. And that was kind of where it came from. And obviously, one of the things I wanted to see in the UK was to get some of the people that we've had on the channel to share their ideas from across the pond and around the world on reefing, which I think's been a massive sort of leap forward. But no, going back to the meets, that is exactly what it's about. It's about getting together in the Green Man, like you say, at Coral Freaks, at a reef meet, whenever we have them, and just having a bacon sarnie, a chat, whatever, a beer the night before, whatever, and just seeing how people are in general. Not even sometimes about the reef tank.
I know it's funny because, like, you think about it, Coral Freaks, actually, I've got the running order. It's about 6 hours, right? It's about 6 hours fun, right?
Yeah.
The reality is, you lot will all be down there on the Friday, yeah. Probably, I'm guessing, in the afternoon, yeah. Right, and then a lot of people will be, yeah. And then by the time they're like, you would have done more hours together outside of the event than you will actually at the event.
Oh,
And
definitely.
that's what I mean. So that's the social aspect of it, and particularly from a mental health perspective. I know, well, like, you hear a lot of it these days, mental health and things like that, and it can almost, well, anyway, all I know is that the benefits of these sorts of things, when people leave, it's not, oh, should I get a ticket? Oh, I don't know. Should I go? I don't know. Should I know? That's what it's like, isn't it? I know what it's like. Yeah, and then actually, when they do attend and bother to do these things, when they leave, people leave. Yeah, oh, that was great. It was fantastic. It was great seeing him or great seeing her, or, oh yeah, by the way, if you're going down to Coral Freaks, can you bring us down one of them? Because I haven't got one. Like you said, it's a great way. You can't do it all on social media. You can't
No.
do it all on podcasts. You can't do it all on live streams.
You can connect, but it's
You can
that,
connect.
it's that valued time with these
Yes.
people that we're
Yeah.
mentioning that you don't get to physically interact with as often as you probably might like, because again, geographically we're
Yeah.
dotted all over, and it's really
Yeah.
important. And you get a sense, you know how important it is on the drive back home on the Sunday or the Monday or however long you're staying. You feel
Yeah.
better for it.
Yeah.
It is a healthy thing, definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Goodie bags, Paul. Can we talk about goodie bags? Did you have a Blue
Yeah.
Peter
Sure.
moment?
Yeah.
Can we?
Yeah.
So just explain
So
to us the ideas behind it again. Then, so there's two different
right. So
levels. Is that right?
basically, on in the morning, right, on that
Yeah.
morning. So we're going to start a little bit earlier. The reason why we're starting a bit earlier is because there's a lot to do before we get off at about 10:15. Right. So about 9 o'clock, the doors are going to open to let the first 40 people that bought VIP tickets through the door.
Yeah.
When they go through the door, they'll be given a goodie bag. And those that bought VIP tickets will have a little bit extra in their goodie bag than the standard ticket entry. But they'll be able to choose themselves a T-shirt. We've got 3 new designs. We've got 3 different sizes. You'll be able to go and choose a T-shirt. That's why we need to get those VIP guests. You'll get your coffee first, I suppose, if that's of interest. And you'll be able to talk to the people that are in the room, whether that's Steve Fox or maybe a Julian Sprung. So you'll get an opportunity, those first 40 people, to get through the door, go and get your seats down at the front. You've got the first 2 rows. But I didn't want to see that the standard ticket didn't get anything at all. So I've pushed hard, and I have to say, if you do get an opportunity as someone visiting Coral Freaks, please go and thank suppliers, because every year I beg suppliers for free stuff for you guys. Yeah. As does Paul Longhurst for Love to Reef, often beg for free stuff. And this year we've been absolutely spoiled again. I mean, I haven't got all of the VIP bag, but I can go through it. So
Yeah.
this
Go
is
on. Let's
one of
put
the
you on big
bags
screen.
that, yeah. So like
Yeah.
Reef Nutrition bag carrier, but inside it you're going to get an ICP. Now I don't know how much an ATI ICP is. I'm not that au fait with pricing. You guys might know out there. Right, but I mean that's got to be
35 quid out there, something
maybe,
like that.
about 20 to 30. Who knows? It's about 20 to 35, 20 quid or something like that. You've also got, which I have to say was amazing, various different foods from Vitalis in there. They donated, I'm sure, about £1,000 worth of trade of food and things like that in there. You've also got some TDO samples, like the pellet food samples, and some TDO charts, pens, stickers, all sorts. And I believe as well we got some mastic, little balls of mastic as well. So what we've tried to do is, because we had to increase the ticket price this year to try and help cover, I'm going to say, some of the costs. Because lots of people don't realise, Coral Freaks was always done irrespective of cost. It's never, ever made a profit. There's been a loss every year that I did them, yeah, but it was a loss that I could handle back then, because I looked here, like I said, as advertising and publicity. That's what I saw it as. So this year, because I had to increase the tickets, I've tried to get back for you some of that increase. It went from 20 to 35 this year because it had to. It was an
Yeah.
experimental, it was 25, I think, last year. I remember £5 of every ticket that was sold is going to go to Mind. Yeah, it's fundamental reefers out there that, please, if you can, put your hand in your pocket for the raffle, because you've got to remember the manufacturers. I'll give you an idea. I reckon I've got at least £6,000 worth of raffle prize. I'm going to say, just to be on the safe side, 4 to 6,000.
Yeah.
No, a Neptune Pro set's £1,000.
Yeah,
Hello,
definitely.
there's 6 buckets of salt. Niles has gone mad. I mean, there was just 6 buckets, so you've got 6 chances to win a bucket of salt. Yeah, there's only 120 of you. I think we're at the moment. I think we'll see another 10 or so tickets go in the next couple of days, which is the same numbers of people that we had last year. So the odds are really high. You've got an 8 bucket choice. The raffle, you stand a chance of winning something. I mean, I know this. Jay will probably win the other XR Radiant this year. He's going to upgrade from Coral Freaks and Love to Reef, Jay, because he wins bloody everything all the time, doesn't he? But there's so many good prizes. I can't even remember at the minute what they all are. But I mean, to give you an idea, one of the I thought was a fantastic prize, which I sort of came up with the idea with D&D. How about you get a sample of water from your tank, you meet Jose at his elements, you test your water there and then with him, an experience day. You take your sample of water direct to his elements, spend time with Jose, testing your water on an ICP. So you learn and see the whole subject and why an ICP machine is a pretty dangerous piece of kit, I might add, as well. Well, you're going to learn how your water is done. So what a great day that was, experience day. So the other one is an experience day at TMC as well. You've got a chance to win. Oh, by the way, with this Elements one, you've got a chance to win a bundle of their gear as well, and an ICP that you will then use to take to the experience day.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic thing. Yeah. And then TMC as well. Again, I wanted something that was UK manufactured on the raffle. And of course, TMC Vectons are made in the UK.
Yeah.
So I wanted TMC to showcase what they're really good at. What they're really good. This isn't a rebranded item. This is what I wanted them to do. Go and showcase your UV. You make these in the UK. They're incredibly reliable and they're commercially used by every store across the land, TMC UVs. And then you get an opportunity, which is rare. I know some of the influencers out there have had an opportunity, including yourself, to go to TMC, but there's going to be hobbyists there, right? Yeah, there's going to be hobbyists there that are going to never been to TMC that really would probably like to see it. So I've managed to secure a visit there as well.
That's good.
And the rest of the raffle. So please, if you can, the raffle's amazing. Try very quickly, get your raffle tickets, get into the hall to sit down. So we've got that one. The TMC of the ones that have done the goodie bags for the VIPs, and there's still at the moment, you're going to get 2 ICPs in the VIP. So that almost covers your ticket price alone as a VIP. You're then going to get a T-shirt of any design that you want. There's some new designs that we've produced. We've got the Ange Master T-shirt that I've always had done. We've had them reprinted and they're a much higher standard and quality as well. But you also get some TMC various foods. You also get some Vitalis Marine Flakes, which, I mean, how much is that? So your ticket price is going to be covered by your goodie bag if you was a VIP alone.
Definitely.
So if you get a chance, just pat Foxy, pat whoever, Matt from Senai, pat whoever's in that room, pat them on the back, say thanks for a goodie bag, because as I said, it's a tall order. They have to obviously do Aqua H for free samples, and they do these other shows and events and things, and And to give you an idea, you actually have to buy a lot of these samples. They don't get given them. Yeah, they still have to buy them. It's not like they're being given them by the manufacturers or stuff like that. So it's a huge cost, and I have to commend all of the suppliers and manufacturers that have supported it. So, without their support, I'd only have half a show.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
so if you can bear that in the back of your mind, it may be an AAC thing, but 50% of that show or Love to Reef is down to people volunteering their time for you as hobbyists of a weekend. Remember, this is their day job. Would you want to go and do your day job of a weekend?
Mm.
So, for a lot of, so it's not only just the products that they give us, but it's also their time that they actually give as well.
So the
So it's going to
Queen,
be,
the Queen's hosting it, and we've
yeah.
got Haribo camera doing some filming.
Yeah, so basically, I just this past year, when Harry first come on the scene, I found him incredibly interesting, and he's an
Amazing.
incredibly polite guy as well, and I watched a couple of his films, and he was very different, and I like bigging up those people that are a bit different, yeah,
Yeah,
and he came on the scene, and I just thought, you know what, he's in the right realm of what I'm about, and Coral Freaks is about.
yeah,
Coral Freaks was about dropping your guard. When it was a vendor show, drop your guard. I couldn't, in the end, by the way, I found very little support to help the Coral Freaks vendor show because all the dealers just wanted to kill one another. A bit like the obvious problem we were discussing earlier on.
yeah, yeah,
And it took an awful lot, even for Paul Longhurst, to get other people to start working in the room together. Um, so it's Harry came into this world with a very different look at things, yeah, and his style of filming is very calming and soothing. And last year, of course, Steph had the enormous task of, because we was originally pressured. We had people from China, people from the US, people from Germany, people from Japan messaging me, is this going to be televised? Is this going to
Oh,
be
right.
YouTube? Is this going to be this?
Yeah,
So we felt under extreme pressure to make this available to every hobbyist. I actually, at the time, I was a little bit, no, get a ticket, get a flight. They don't do, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Get, if you want to see it, get off your ass and go and see it, because it just makes people lazy, is the way I saw it. But when there are people asking you from China, the US, and other countries, you start to think, hang on a minute, this maybe should be
yeah,
screened
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah.
definitely.
So Steph had the enormous task of editing 6 hours of film, which took him 2 bleeding weeks to do, and nearly killed him. So I said, right, and of course Steph ain't doing it this year. So what I said to Harry was, I don't want a full film. Yeah, what we want, and I want it to go on his channel. I like to help other people
Yeah,
out. Yeah, so last year it was Steph. Let's help him. Jeremy, a bit of exposure for him as well, and it's all about, a bit like the Reefers Network, about helping each other out. So
exactly that. Yeah,
Harry was really interesting to me when he first. I know that people were taking the piss out of Harry when he first came on the scene a little bit, and I wanted to step in there because I know how horrible people can be, and just make sure that he was given the leg up that he deserves. And I think that now, as you start to realise how much of a wonderful gentleman he really is, it was very important for me that he would be first choice for this year's film. Now, I'm not stopping anyone else from sitting in the audience and filming, because it'll make me sound like a right tall bag, right? But the reality, and I know that Steve Rudd, East Coast, he'll probably want to film, and I know that Jay, he always does a bit of filming. So anyone's allowed to film. I just don't want you all wandering about when we're supposed to be sat down. So I
yeah,
choose one person that can wander about to do the filming. So it's so Harry's going to do his take on Coral Freaks. So
looking
no
forward to it.
doubt, no doubt it will have, like, and it hasn't. I'm pretty sure it won't be a huge full length film. It's just going to be a short 20 minutes or 10, 15
Yeah,
minutes or whatever about Coral Freaks today. And he done a nice little bit on Love to Reef, which I thought was superb. His little film he did, and I thought he deserves this spot to give it a go. And he's an all-round nice guy as well. So, you know.
definitely, definitely.
I do
You
have
mentioned.
a couple of
Go on.
t-shirts in XXL just for that gentleman there.
Well, I'm not quite an XXL
No,
anymore.
no,
Dropped a little bit.
all right, okay.
Yes.
So you'll be a large. or an
Yes.
XL. Yeah, I have got smalls. In case you've got, I've got small all the way up to double XL.
Okay. You mentioned to me wristbands yesterday or
Yes.
the day before when we spoke. Talk to me about wristbands for a second on the day, if you don't mind.
Right, so when we're in the morning, you're going to get Paul Longhurst, Love to Reef, because don't forget there's a
Yeah,
collaboration again there
definitely.
because so the Minds charity thing was originally J Real Reef's idea.
Yeah,
It then fell to Paul to bring that through in Love to Reef as well. So Paul's going to be on the door like he normally is, doing wristbands and entry. So make sure you've got it on your phone. If you've not got your email, they're showing your ticket, please message now because we're on the morning. We can't have faffing. Yeah.
yeah,
So if you can, if you've not got an email when you've paid for a ticket, let us know or let Paul Longhurst know. He's the one that's sending out the tickets. We'll sort it. Don't worry. But just get in touch. And you'll be literally, if you're a VIP, you'll be coming straight to the front. You'll be given a different coloured wristband to everybody else. Both wristbands get you a discount in the store at the end of the day, or yeah. So ultimately, if you're a VIP guest, we're dropping our guard 15% off livestock on in the afternoon, late afternoon. But remember, you've only got a couple of hours to, there are Coral Freaks isn't about me maximising sales from AAC. The shop goes mad. Yeah, I'm going to say that it does go
yeah,
mad before and after it. But the reality is, this isn't Paul selling you gear. It's just that I always try and give you something if you want it. So you've
yeah,
got a wristband that will entitle you as a VIP guest to 15% off livestock that day, unless it's already on a sale or offer. That's what we always say. So if it's a deal on trocker snails, for example, and it's already in place, you're not going to get discount on top of discount. But
yeah,
generally, that'll enable you to, if there's a coral you like or a fish or something, and we can pack for your long journey as well. And I'd like to actually give a huge shout out to Shauno, Dreamy,
yeah.
as I call him, right? Sean Russell, because he offered, if need be, to help pack with us. I mean, there's a team of 6 people packing, but you please be patient. It's bloody
Yes.
hard, as you can imagine. And if you're a non-VIP standard entry, you're still going to get a discount. You're going to get 10% off. So you've got 2 different coloured wristbands, and it was rather than having to prove on your phone what ticket you bought, you just have to put your arm up at the till and then you'll get automatically applied discount on there.
Are there any you got any high chairs on the day? Because certain people in the
Funny enough,
audience
no,
might
no,
struggle.
get absolutely. Now, what I did hear on the Friday night stream, I'm really looking forward to seeing our good friend. And don't worry about it. I've had a word with the CAF, and they're going to bring in a little ball pit. They're going to bring in a little ball pit as well, just in case, yeah, and an extra high chair for someone special who's coming along.
Oh dear,
Angie's
yeah.
good. Angie's really good with children, right? So don't worry, Mummy Flange will be on site if needed to. All right.
Alan's just got a question for you there regarding discounts, Paul. Is it dry goods or is it just livestock on the
Well, I mean,
day?
as I said, have a chat with the team when you're in. If there's a list of stuff, you can always pre-order it and have a chat with Connor or Barry. You won't get me this week, I can tell you that much. But Alan, by all means, by all means, Alan, contact Barry, see what it is that you want, and we'll always try and work something out. But as I said, we're always how can I put it, flexible.
Any unusual requests that you've received this year from the Reefing royalty guests? Anybody asking for to be able to control their hotel room temperature with an
Um,
apex?
What did Steph ask? Steph wanted doves in his room. He wants doves. What else did he request? He wants a hairdresser on standby
Dressing
all the
room.
time. Yeah, in his dressing room. Yeah. And he requested caviar and raspberries. Yeah. Julian Sprung requested that I plant a mangrove in his room for him, just so he feels at home. So we've done that as
Nice.
well. Corey has requested that I make sure that I fill him up with English beer because he loves it that much. Not
Oh,
being, oh yeah, he don't like it. It's really, it's a bit embarrassing having the Germans over here at times. I tell you,
oh dear.
because they don't appreciate warm English beer. I forced a pint down him last year, And his face said it all. He hated every moment of it.
Oh dear.
I think he thought he was drinking one of his dips, his Nios dips.
Okay, fair enough. So next Saturday then, as we've already talked about this morning, we've got a very, looks like an action-packed lineup for sure. A lot of names on there that some people have heard of before, watch YouTube, what we've talked about. Looking forward to it. And as we've said already this morning, we'll be at the Green Man for those of you that are making a trip and staying over the night before. Be great to see you. I bet you'll be ready for the Saturday night though, won't you?
Well, you've seen the evidence of those. So, you know, I rarely, Rodders always say, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're coming down the pub, and all that. And I always think, oh my God, you know, and on the Friday night before, and I always try and explain to people, it's not that Paul Hughes doesn't want to be social. It's just that usually on the Friday night before, I want you to all imagine that my bum has got much tighter. Yeah. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I'll be absolutely the nerves of these sorts of things. I struggle with nerves as well before these things, you know, and so I try to avoid the pub because there's always a danger that once I've had like a pint, I might end up in a 10-point situation as I try and relax out of the nerves. So you may not see, I might pop in on the Friday night for a quick one, but please don't try and fill me up with beer because I might never get up. Tom, I saw that look on your face then. Right, but then on the Saturday night, as probably you've seen, both Ange and I, we tend to just it tends to get messy.
Just a little bit like the barbecue up here, but on a much bigger scale. Anyway,
yes, yeah.
I think I'm going to wrap us up there. I think we've covered everything, Paul. Thank you ever so much for the 2 hours 15 minutes of your Sunday morning, and thanks to the 40 odd of you that have tuned in this Sunday to join us. I hope it's been informative. Definitely had lots to talk about this morning, and there's even more to talk about and look forward to next Saturday. So looking forward to seeing you all down there. But for those of you that are watching, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Look forward to seeing as many of you as I can next Saturday at Coral Freaks. Paul, thank you once again. Big hello to the team.
Tom.
Looking forward to seeing you all next. You're welcome. Take care, everybody. Have a cracking week. We'll see you all next Saturday. Bye-bye for now.
We are Coral Freaks, normal guys with a scientific tweak. We are Coral Freaks, chasing numbers every day of the week.
What's up, everyone? Salem Clemens from Novel Aquatics here.
It's Jamie from the Horniman Museum and Gardens, also Mars Sustainable Solutions.
Corey from Niles and White Corals here.
My name is Tony Vargas, and I will be in the show again this year.
Julian Sprung here. I'm very excited to be a part of Coral Freaks 2025, a reefing audience with, can you actually end a title with? What's up with that?
Really looking forward to catching up with everyone on the 1st of November for Coral Freaks over at AAC in Essex.
If you love reefing as much as I do, you have to get your tickets, order them now. It's not your regular trade show. It's a show where it's about you and the speakers.
It'll be my first time in the UK, and it'll be my first time getting to meet all of you.
This event, hosted by the one and only Yorkshire Reefer, takes place just a month from now, and it's a unique show because aside from the focus on aquarium and coral keeping techniques, a portion of the ticket sales is donated to Mind Mental Health charities supporting mental health research.
You guys remember last year when David Saxby won Hobbyist of the Year award, and how exciting that was, and how emotional he became? Well, this year, let's see who wins this award, and hopefully we can get some tears out of them.
Not only are we going to have a great day of conversation about the latest and greatest in the coral reef keeping world, but also we're supporting a really, really worthwhile cause.
A great cause to support and a great weekend to have.
It's really wonderful that Angela and Paul of Advanced Aquarium Consultancy and the Yorkshire Reefer have put together this event, and I look forward to seeing you there. By the way, you can buy your tickets on the Advanced Aquarium Consultancy website.
Guys, get your tickets now because the seats are running out. Hurry up, get your tickets, and I will see you then.
I'll see you there.
See you guys there.
Hope to see you there soon, and looking forward to it.
See you soon.